doing here and why we're doing it and how we're doing it. So as most of you guys know already, I'm Alex Fair. I run contests like this all over the place. We call it the Medmo World Tour, as the t-shirt indicates, although it seems that my slide is not advancing. There we go. We had been, the first event that got canceled was South by Southwest, but we've run, I believe, 189 events in 25 cities. As I said about Eugene before, Eugene, this is Eugene's fault. He started me on this kick. And then actually a lot of you helped out in a lot of ways. Guys like Paulo Machado, we were both mentors at Blueprint Health. We've known each other forever. The Blueprint Health guys, when they first started their accelerator, we helped bring them to New York and helped them out a lot. Same for the Startup Health guys. So we've kind of been there at the beginning of a lot of this movement, and we've helped, thousands of people do all sorts of amazing things. And it's very inspiring to us, the power of the platform, simply just getting together, physically and now virtually, the things that happen when people talk about what their ideas are. It really foments this revolution and now evolution in healthcare that's really changed a lot of stuff. And also the people involved have gone on to do amazing things. People like, Eugene, going back to Eugene, he ran innovation for Bayer and for Medco and a bunch of other companies. And now he's got his own startup where they're going to change, how health coaching works. And he's not pitching today, but he did. Did you finish closing the round?
And again, we're 1 week away from the first close.
Okay, so they're also going to be our next investment, I believe. So that's the kind of stuff that happens. So we go around on a world tour. We don't just go there and meet with people. We bring together local communities. So when we go to Miami, as Aline came with us the first time, I think it was Aline's fault that we went there, as usual. Getting me to come out of my shell a little bit. We saw some great startups. We actually invested in the team that won that contest. That company, we're now working on getting them acquired by a big company in their space. And that guy is going to be very happy, as well as me and all of my investors like George and other people on the line. So it works really well because you bring everybody together, things happen, partnerships happen, pilots happen, people to put themselves on mute or whatever that is. It really helps everybody get where they're going faster. I honestly would have no way of knowing what's actually happening. Like do you remember Eugene at one of those first events? There was a guy who invented a pill bottle with a scale in it and a marketing girl, and the two of them got together and they made a company. And it happened at that event, right? And that's the kind of thing that happens all the time that we probably don't even see. So when I say talk amongst yourselves and tell people about you, definitely feel free to reach out to each other. You can put your LinkedIn information into the chat box, send it to everybody. Usually at a real event, you'd be exchanging cards. But here we're going to save what's ever in the chat. We'll make that freely available for everybody. And that's the kind of thing we can do at these events. Now, we didn't build in a networking component because as you can see, we had enough trouble just getting this shit going. But usually that's what happens at the real events. So if anybody is in a city and you want us to come, assuming that we get that, let's go over the prices soon. I think by Easter, right? It's scheduled. We're done with Easter. Everyone believes that, right?
I'm starting to cut out a little bit.
I'm cutting out. Okay. It's probably the censor's not letting me, make fun of Trump.
Feel free.
What's that?
Feel free.
Yes. Well, I was saying that the COVID's going to be over by Easter, so we're going to get back on tour by then, I'm sure.
No, and with the Easter Bunny, no doubt.
Yeah, exactly. Who is real?
Yeah.
So this is our schedule for today. Are we sure that Apotheca is in the house?
I'm here.
Yes.
Thanks. Yeah, we should have put the names on this, but honestly, you'll see that
I just sent it to you.
Barely got anything together. Anyway, so.
Oh, I just sent it to David.
Can you guys hear him?
All right, bye.
I'm here.
Anyway, so we're going to have 5 teams pitch. Now in the chat box, if you scroll up, can you do the chat box and put do all the judges have a window open with their judging form at this point?
I don't need to open
I
it.
do.
Okay, please open your judging forms. It's very important that that I hear from not just the judges, but from everybody, okay? One of the things that we do at Medstartr Venture Partners is we utilize the wisdom of crowds. I don't think I'm the smartest person in the room. Now I have an echo. That's not good. Anyway, so I don't think that I know everything. But I do know that if I ask a lot of people that I trust and I know, and that I learned to trust and know, that I'm going to get a ton of really great information about which companies we should spend our time and effort accelerating, investing in things like that. We're actually running an accelerator program this week, but when we invest in a company, we actually work with the company for 3 years at a time, and then we're there for them with our over 100 years of experience doing deals in healthcare and outside of healthcare to help those companies negotiate. So George, I actually grew up with George Hatzman. He knows my chief negotiators, and he can tell you about them, but they are some of the shrewdest people and some of the best negotiators you could ever imagine. And I know I sound like Trump talking about himself, but yeah, these guys are great. George can vouch for them if you want. Look, you got him too.
You have the best negotiators.
Oh, Sunil.
Do they use the best words, Alex?
Yeah, the best words, always great words, the best
Okay.
words.
Okay,
I can't do the Trump
then
impression.
all good.
Anyway, so the plan today, we're gonna do 5 pitches. We're gonna take a break. I'm gonna call it a dance break. You can go to the bathroom if you want, but we're gonna see if we can get Sunita Parajuli to do a Bollywood dance break. And yeah, because a lot of times what we do after our events is we actually go out places like dancing or whatever. So yeah, so I figured we put it in the middle of the event. For those of you who came to my birthday party / Dance Healthcare Revolution, you've seen this ad nauseum already. And I do mean ad nauseum. It was probably the Jello shots. And then we have 5 more teams, all pitching for 3 minutes each, with 3 minutes of Q&A from the judges. Okay, so I'm gonna ask the judges to keep your questions short and to the point. Same thing for the pitchers, because Heather is watching, okay, and she will be telling us when you're out of time, and I will mute you, okay? In real life, I actually have to be ruder than that, but Pat over here gets to just click a button and mute you. So, and we do that, and I don't know if you know my full name, it's actually Alex B. Fair, okay? We do that because we want the contest to be fair. So it's kind of not just my name, it's a directive, and it's also how we run the contests. And is it really just a contest? Honestly, this is a showcase. We want these ideas to get as many people to see them as possible. Speaking of which, Pat, how many people are here? 53 people.
Oh, 54. 'cause
Oh,
counting
but then
me.
you don't know the ones who are watching. Oh, no, but the Facebook Live isn't working,
Yeah.
as usual. Okay, I love Facebook Live. It used to be really good. And if Avi was here, it would probably work, but Avi's not here. We're socially distancing. But everybody can watch it this way through the Zoom, and we're going to record it and make it available later. Okay, so that's about everything I have to say about what we're doing here, except that at the end of the day, there's another important thing. We had so many applications. It's been crazy. And there's so many amazing ideas. And while usually we don't have any problem telling 90 companies, sorry, you can't pitch today, you have to wait till next time, this one's kind of urgent, right? So we're actually going to do this event every week, same time, same channel, although we might have to change the time, I don't know. Well, it's in the survey. We'll ask you if, what you think, if this time is okay. Anyway, so the idea is to do it the same time every week, and then put another 10 companies up on stage, and then have this conversation again, and then put all of them into an online showcase on medstartr.com, and then let the whole world come and see it. Already, John and Rob and Josh, some of our investors, are actually taking some of the companies that have pitched to us and bringing them to the state of New York, to Texas, to Louisiana, to lots of hospitals, to Northwell, to all these companies that need things like ventilators and respirators, masks, gowns. Because when we started this challenge, a ton of people came to us and said, hey, we've got all these ideas, we've got all these things, you know everybody, can you help us, get these ideas, to Cuomo? And Cuomo's on TV saying, hey, we need 25,000 respirators. And the people with the respirators, they called us and say, hey, do you know Cuomo? We say, yeah, we know Cuomo. So we called Cuomo and they had that meeting today. And maybe we'll be helping get respirators. And that's the whole idea, right? It's connectivity, it's connection, it's being able to connect to the people who actually care about this. And a lot of those people are in the audience right now. Okay, so we're not just, dancing and doing silly things. We have a real purpose, which is to help fight COVID, right? And all of the innovators who are here today, the reason that they were selected is because they have ideas that are urgent and ready to go and can help lots of people right now. I have an amazing judging panel. We asked everybody to apply to be a judge, and I'm happy to say that everybody who applied was actually really super well qualified, and I'm really excited to have such an amazing judging panel, in addition to the ones that I had selected ahead of time. The judges are important for a couple different things. One, they represent companies and organizations that might be looking for innovations. Two, they know a lot. They're subject matter experts. Three, we trust them. And when they tell us companies are really good using that form, we tend to believe them. But we also know that there's some amazing judges out on the panel. Like I know, for example, Amrita Apaswani is here, and I love Amrita, but she's running a program for New Orleans that's about dealing with social isolation, in this COVID crisis. And, she also used to run the programs we used to do in New Orleans for healthcare innovators. So really fantastic people in the crowd, all among us. Okay, so I'm gonna shut up now. And what I'd like each of the judges to do is to take 30 seconds, tell us who you are and what you're doing in COVID and healthcare innovation.
I'll start. This is Eugene. As Alex Fair said, I got him on this journey of this Health 2.0 to Medstartr, and I'm a serial intern entrepreneur that just finished a long stint at a company called Bayer, and now co-founder of Your Coach Health, which is for health coaching front lines of health.
Thanks, Gene. So is Melissa Byrne here? Melissa? Okay. Let's see. I know Aline is here.
Yes. Hi, everybody. So my name is Aline. I'm based in Barcelona, Spain. And I'm a connector, and I work with different startups and actors in the ecosystem. And right now, so like Spain is quite in a bad situation. We've got a lot of cases. And here we are collecting all the different activities happening in Europe mainly. And we had an event also this afternoon. So all the different digital health solutions that can support the healthcare professionals and the patient during this crisis.
In the chat box. Just keep sharing it every 10 minutes. That's great, Aline. Thank you. Although I know you're here, why don't you tell us about you? Although you're listed as Alex Fair, is that right?
Nope.
You changed yourself?
I was able to fix it. You can actually edit your name. Hi, everybody. Paulo Machado, been in and around healthcare for over 25 years. I almost have the Alex Fair Eugene look, but I left a little bit underneath here. Who knows what it'll look like in a few months once COVID makes me stay home a little longer. I may shave my head too. But so I've been involved in healthcare for a long time. Also a serial intra and entrepreneur. Worked in large companies and internally developing and driving exponential emerging technology and analytics into the marketplace. I've been involved with numerous startups over the years, and I've gotten involved full time in some of them and helped them exit. So I'm very glad to have met Alex and many of you over time and helping organizations get out there and make a difference. No better time to be involved in driving innovation than now, especially when there's a global pandemic where we can all focus on our energies and doing something that's really good for helping humanity. So glad to be here and looking forward to these meetings.
Thanks, Paulo. Let's see, who else is here? Brian Wu, I know you're here. Are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here. My name is Brian. I'm a psychiatry resident at LAC USC. I've dabbled around with different startups and entrepreneurship ideas, but I like to bring sort of a mental health and wellness focus to different projects. And I think now, especially as everyone's saying, it's important to think about the different aspects of COVID, and I'm happy to talk about any of the mental health aspects.
That's fantastic. Avishai, you're going to be filling out a judging form?
Am I?
I think you should.
All right.
Avi's actually on our Medstartr venture. He's one of our Medstartr venture partners. We also invested in his company, but he's also our resident polymath and knows more about COVID than a shit ton of people, most people. So go ahead, Avi.
Cut it up on my screen somewhere.
I was already done it.
Yeah, but this is a different crowd. It's like 3 times as many people as we had back then.
For my intro. Right, so my background is in electrical engineering, but in the last 6 to 8 years, I've moved from medical devices more and more towards the healthcare side of things. I've got a startup company where we refill expired EpiPens and part of the Medstartr portfolio. But in the last week or two, I've been very focused on this whole COVID situation, trying to provide and build a centralized resource about all the different aspects of the disease and cultural phenomena around it. There's so much different misinformation going around everywhere that I've been trying to go and take the most rigorous scientific backing to all the actual guidelines from all the official organizations, combine that with a ton of research into the literature of both newly published articles and past ones, trying to figure out what are the best practices for individuals right now to avoid either contracting the disease or boosting their immune systems as much as possible to help if they do get exposed to it.
Thank you, Avi. Okay, so 30 seconds. John Harris, you want to tell us about you?
Sure. Jonathan Harris, actually also an engineer by training, but never practiced. I work with a portfolio of early stage startups, and the ones in healthcare are specifically focused in revenue cycles. We're talking with a lot of our customers right now and understanding how they're dealing with this and how they're thinking about how they're going to get paid on the other hand. Really focus on transitioning the balance of power from payers back to providers. So thinking long term in terms of healthcare. Okay,
that's great. Thanks, John. I see there's an Alex Fair in the room, and that was probably one of our judges, but I don't know who you are. Is that Ivy?
I just joined. I'm a sales representative for Hygiea Health. Sorry, I joined late.
But what's your name?
My name's Kaylin Druitt.
Is what?
My name is, sorry, I thought you asked to just joined. I just joined. My name's Kaylin Druitt. I'm a sales representative for Hygiea Health. Ricardo said he was going to be speaking at 4:40, so I just called in to listen.
Oh, I see. She's an attendee.
But I actually just realized that by me logging in, it's muting him. So I'm going to log off and he'll send me another invite. So I'll be back.
If you go to the Health 2.0 website on Meetup, there's the link for the audience is there. So you're supposed to be in the audience. Sorry.
Okay. Thanks so much. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay. So I think that's all the judges I see there.
I'm here, Alex.
Who?
I'm here. Ivy really is here.
Where are you, Ivy? Say something.
Why are you not seeing me? I'm on the screen.
I thought the last person was you, and I thought there were.
I know you said my name, but it was. I guess you didn't see me. Bizarre. Anyway, hi, I'm Ivy Cohen.
Too many Alex Fairs.
I'm up as Alex Fair?
Yes, you come up as Alex Fair.
Oh, I have a lot more hair than you.
Yeah, you ain't just whistling Dixie. Much prettier too. Anyway.
So I'm president of Ivy Cohen Corporate Communications. The majority of our practice is in healthcare. We've been working with COVID-19 the past several weeks, helping clients develop brand communication strategies to make them relevant during this time. And some of that affects their operations and their service and product decisions. I've been a mentor and advisor to several tech incubators, mostly in New York City, and have enjoyed being affiliated with Medstartr over the last several years.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Okay, did we miss any other judges that are here? Sunita?
I'm here.
Really? Say something so I can tell which one you are.
Well, I'm confused about my screen sharing.
Are you still logged on from your phone?
No, I'm right now. I'm logged on from my laptop.
Yeah, well, somehow you're getting a big echo.
Yeah. What
Oh, there
about
you go.
now?
You fixed it, whatever you did.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. It's perfect.
Oh, perfect. This is from laptop. Earlier it was from phone, but I don't know how to share my screen. So what do I do?
Turn on the webcam thing. Start with that. There's a little thing that says share my video or webcam.
Share screen, right? Share screen.
No, not
And
screen. We don't want your screen, just your picture.
yeah. Start video. Okay.
There you are. Okay, cool. So,
I have. Okay, you introduce.
no, I'm not doing it. You do it.
Okay. I'm Sunita Parajuli. I'm an infectious disease doctor. I finished my fellowship from NYU, and I'm practicing infectious disease in a subacute rehabilitation center in. And since last 3 weeks or so, dealing with COVID patients, I'm also the medical director of the facility now. So there is a lot of COVID going on, a lot of need, a lot of different things, everything going on. So I'll definitely be, from the clinical aspect, I'll be happy to contribute and judge at at the level I can.
No, it's great to have you here, Sunita. And Sunita and I have been talking a lot about what's going on. She's got very deep insights from the front line, so to speak. So it's always good to have physicians who are dealing with the crisis directly involved. Okay, so anybody else that I missed? Anyone?
Alex, could you just go and make sure everyone else is muted again? There's some background noise, so just when one person is talking.
Yeah, that's great, because we're...
You just muted yourself.
So, thank you. Actually, that was my lovely and capable assistant, who is fantastic. I had him on, I don't want to touch him. Get our message. So yes, we're actually ready. We're ready to start pages. So okay, and then unmute the first speaker.
Alex, we can't hear you. You're choppy.
Well, it's a good thing I'm not the one who's speaking mostly after this. Okay, so the first team going for 3 minutes is called Apotheca Systems. So we're going to pull up his deck. And Dennis should be muted by now. Dennis, can you check? Okay, so
can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Do you see your deck?
Yes.
Okay, so remember that Pat's going to be advancing the deck for you, so you might have to say next or what have you.
Okay.
And you got 3 minutes. Okay, and when they're going to have 3 minutes to ask you questions. We're already running behind schedule as usual. It's 4:23. We're 3 minutes behind. So we like to be, fluid with these things. Now, judges, Pat put into the chat box, the chat link, the judge form.
Yep.
So if you could pull up your judge form, that would be fantastic. I'm going to go pull mine up right now. And so Heather, why don't you tell them when to go? You're going to tell them when they have 30 seconds left, and then when they're done. Okay. Heather's definitely unmuted, right? Otherwise, I'll have to do this myself. Okay, let's get a clock. Heather? All right, this is exciting. Anybody else have a clock handy that wants to be the timer?
Want me to time?
Somebody's got to do it.
I'll do it.
Oh, here's a clock. Well, I got a timer. Timer ends. Okay, 4 minutes, 0 seconds. Okay, I guess I'm your timer. Okay, so Dennis, you ready?
I'm ready.
Come on, are we seeing his screen or my screen? This is my fault, probably. Okay, okay, go.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the introductions. I'm Dennis, Apotheca Systems, and we're a SaaS platform that integrates with any clinical information systems and transform them into secure ecosystems. And we're trying to address three things: security, data integrity, and interoperability. Part of our build or end-to-end solution, we also have a telehealth module we built out. That is the first telehealth module to be on the blockchain. And we're using that right now also to resolve the ongoing issue with COVID-19. We have one of our clients, Cedars-Sinai ENT team, that is already deployed the app, and we're helping them in the triage process, patient intake, and accessing, pre-diagnosis information, and then transmitting that into their EMR system. Next. So those are kind of the numbers, global numbers, what's happening right now in the pandemic. Next. So the three things also we're trying to resolve, although we're doing front-end telehealth, we're trying to resolve security, bad data, and interoperability. I'm pretty sure that some of you have already started seeing the headlines. Some of these centers or labs that are collecting information, they've already started being cyber attacked by hackers. So patient information is already being sold online. That is ongoing issue that some people are not paying attention to, although they are collecting all this information. We're addressing the issue of bad data. You've heard already, some of you maybe, about CDC saying some of the information that is trickling through is missing some key patient identification. And there's no really way to drive that back to the hospitals. So CDC is collecting information, other labs are collecting information. So no information is getting shared at times. So that is impacting healthcare. And also we're pretty much facilitating interoperability between systems within the healthcare setting. So the solution we have on market right now, we're doing telehealth, but at the same time, we're looking at security, making sure that data is clean and is interoperable. It can be shared so that care can be rendered. Next. So the telehealth module we have, as you know, it's helping with socially distanced care, increasing patient engagement, decentralized care, whereby you can have multiple physicians rendering care in areas, and also facilitating faster encounters. So those are some of the benefits that our solution can provide. Move forward. Next. So this is our app at glance. A doctor has their own app, and you can move next. Also, patients have their own app whereby they can communicate, do pre-diagnosis. Claudius.
So Dennis, that's it. Okay, so judges, you have 3 minutes to ask questions, and for Dennis to answer them.
Dennis, just a quick question, Eugene. So I don't know what the protocol is, Alex. I'm just jumping in. So obviously, in the front lines, the quick deployment is probably key. Can you just give us kind of 10 seconds on, if I'm a new hospital system and I underinvested in this, what's the process?
The process pretty much is getting your quick requirements, and then we deploy in case you want it to be integrated with your EMR. We can do that as well, but it can also be a standalone telehealth solution. So we have open APIs, they're bidirectional. So when we get the data, we encrypt it, hash it, put it on the blockchain, and store it in the in your EMR or our secure database.
Okay.
Shareable.
Next question.
Why is it that you guys are using a blockchain instead of just a database?
Because blockchain, we've built like a secure protocol for accessing information whereby we're hashing data. Current databases, when you store information, when you get hacked, you can directly see the patient information. But when you have it on the blockchain, it's secure, permission-based, and encrypted. So you need to have a private key to access that information.
You could have an encrypted database though.
Yes, you can have an encrypted database, but on top of our technology, we have a Constellation enclave. It's like a black box. So you have deeper security compared to a traditional database. And even if a database is encrypted, data is not really encrypted to the lowest level, whereby in case I hack that database, I can still see your name, date of birth. But in case it's on a blockchain, everything is hashed, it's alphanumeric.
They're meeting themselves.
Okay, just any judge who wants to ask a question, make sure you unmute yourself first. And all judges can be unmuted, just not if you have background noise.
Have you
Sorry, it's Paulo Machado. Dennis, great job. How many hospital systems are you already plugged into?
Right now, the main one is Cedars-Sinai, and we've done other physician groups. And right now, we're looking at international concierge practices. So some of them we're still in talks, like MD Anderson, Mount Sinai, and also St. Joseph's. So those are initial discussions we're having with them.
And follow-up question is, what's your business model? How do you charge for this?
Is subscription-based, licensed any physician that is using the platform, and also hosting fees and professional services on yearly basis or quarterly basis.
Have you actually talked to any existing EMRs like Cerner or Epic?
We have not talked to them, but that is something we're looking into to start talking to them.
Could you comment more about how your app is connected to the back end of the hospital system?
You have 3 seconds to answer.
We have open APIs we've built that are bidirectional, what means that data can be transmitted back and forth in real time in a secure way as well. So that's how we do plug and play with the hospital system. So ideally, we'll be connecting it.
Okay, so that's what happens when you just keep talking. Thanks, Dennis. That was great. Big round of applause, silent applause, loud applause. Actually, George, did we miss that like screaming thing in London already? Anyway, okay. If we didn't, then we should probably listen to what that's like, George.
You did miss it. I did take a video. I am trying to figure out how to send that around. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, just drop it into the chat box if you get a link to that.
Yep.
Very cool. So that was great first pitch. Now judges and everybody, not just the judges. Okay, we keep popping it in the chat box, the link to the form. I really want everybody's input on this. So if you don't see the link, let's see, where is it here? I don't see the link. Does everybody have it that wants to have it? Let's just start with that.
You sent us a separate email with the link for judges.
Yeah, but it's also in the chat box.
Got it.
Okay.
You want me to drop it in again?
Yeah, please drop it in again. Early and often. Okay, so we're supposed to be doing that, but now we're doing it. Okay, so Jennifer has been here for over an hour. It's been waiting very patiently. So Jennifer, you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Okay, if I share my screen.
Oh, right, you're the one who wants to share your own screen.
Alex, I'm here if you want me to time.
Great. Okay, so when the timer is ready, that would be awesome.
Okay, and I'll time myself too. So, hi everyone. I'm Dr. Jennifer Meller. I'm the CEO and founder of Navimize.
Yeah.
So we all know what it's like to sit in the doctor's waiting room. Crowded waiting rooms today are no longer an option. This represents a high risk of disease transmission from our less vulnerable to our more vulnerable patients and also to physicians and staff. What we're hearing from our customers and also from our healthcare network is that they're starting to see crowd surging at the testing sites that are going up throughout the country. There's not enough testing capacity, large crowds, lots of patient frustration, and people are starting to worry about unrest. Here's an excerpt from an article in the New York Times yesterday. You see this is a young patient who stood in line for 7 hours, so clearly a huge problem. The other thing we're seeing is that while lots of practices are adopting telehealth, there's still lots of practices that have to see patients in person. What they're doing to manage this is they're putting their staff on the phone to screen patients before they come in, or literally putting a human being outside the office to screen patients physically in person. This is highly inefficient and time consuming, and it takes everyone away from doing what they really want to be doing, which is taking care of sick patients. So we're rolling out 3 solutions: a waiting room social distancing solution, queue management for drive-through testing, and an automated COVID-19 triage tool. Our platform integrates with EMRs and pulls scheduling data and real-time tracking data. Our algorithms crunch this data, and then we're able to predict delays and know the precise moment when the patient is expected to interact with the provider. Then what we do with that information is in the doctor's office, we send text messages to the patients to let them know exactly when to arrive. They come in, they're whisked into an exam room, and they can leave, avoiding the waiting room altogether. At drive-through testing sites, we can text patients and say, hey, this is when you should come to wait in line now. And then when they're online, we can give them information about when they're expected to actually be seen. This goes a long way towards improving the crowd control and keeping everything orderly. We're also working on a COVID-19 triage tool, which we'll be rolling out. The way this will work is that just as we text patients, we'll send an individual link for a triage tool. Anyone who answers no to all the questions is green lighted. Anyone who answers yes is put into a red light category. We then send this list back to the practice so that they can focus on just calling manually just that subset of patients who fall into the red category. It saves them tons of time and effort and energy. And so here's just a quick overview of everything that I've just mentioned. This is our team. We have deep experience in healthcare and tech, and I'm going to stop there. I think I got it in under 3 minutes.
Yeah, you did. It's good.
How do you go about getting integrated into the test centers?
Yeah, great question. So we've spoken to a couple of customers about this. It kind of depends on the specific institution. What we're seeing happening, at least at a few of the places we've spoken to, is that they're manually screening the patients over the phone. Then they're having somebody manually take the information down into a lab system. What we can do is very quickly integrate into that lab system as those patients are getting entered for COVID testing. We can pull that data, schedule them for an appointment time and navimize, and then the rest of our system is pre-built. We just set up the customized texting and messaging.
I love the idea of how you're approaching this precise scheduling, and it seems like it's very focused on people's ability to drive, but a lot of the sort of centers where we're seeing the worst is areas like Boston or New York, where most people aren't driving. Are you integrated into other types of transportation?
So we send text messages to patients' phones. So however they're getting to the testing site, they'll get that text message. And actually the number of messages, the timing, and the language of the messages is customizable. So if you have like a big city like Boston, where people are not driving or they're walking or they're taking the bus or however they're getting there, you can just adjust the timing to send a message, let's say 45 minutes before, and then send them an updated message. And you can embed any kind of instructions you want in there with links or a link to instructions to tell them, here's the process, here's what we're going to be doing, here's what to expect. So that they have all that information before they head over, so it becomes a much more orderly process.
So there are a number of elderly people who don't text. Have you thought of how to address their needs?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I find that, because we've been using this across a lot of our practices, we find that most people will have a cell phone. We can use email as a backup, although it's not as effective because the same people who don't text often will not email. We can sometimes take down a caregiver's number, so we can take down the daughter, the son's number, text the information to them, and then have them call their parents. It's not a perfect system, but it's a backup.
Question from before, you had mentioned integration of EMRs. How far along are you on that system?
Yeah, so we're integrated with Athena. We are integrating with Modernizing Medicine. We're in talks with Cerner now, and we can integrate with Epic, but through Redux. The issue with us with integration is that it's not that it's a hard process. We can, if the hospital releases the administrative controls and gets us quickly through the approval process, the actual integration is fairly quick. We don't write anything back to the EMR. We're pulling pretty basic information like scheduling and tracking. So it's really more, we can integrate pretty much with any system in under 2 weeks, maybe quicker. It's really just getting those administrative obstacles out of the way.
Jennifer, this is just a quick question. So today your market has been generally private smaller practices, or have you had?
Yeah. So the platform originally came from, in the pre-COVID days. I've been a physician for a long time, always ran behind schedule, knew it was a problem. It affected my online reputation. It affects people's CAP scores. So this was built to address that problem. And then as we were building, we were doing things like filling canceled slots and a no-show feature, and also working on something we call intelligent scheduling. All this was pre-COVID. And so in the COVID area, we've pivoted what we've done and taken what we've done and applied it in a way that's usable today.
Do you have data on how accurate it is and how well you're able to predict,
Yeah. So in over 75% of so I'll tell you our data and then I'll give you another qualification. So in over 75% of the time, we've been able to predict delays with accuracy going less than 15 minutes. So that could be 1 minute. That includes everything up to 15. Most of that data lies in the 0 to 5 minute range. Now, one thing that we've done intentionally pre-COVID was we actually used to work with the practices. We created a buffer in our system where, let's say the doctor is running 30 minutes behind. If we put a 10-minute buffer, we'd only let the patient know 20 minutes. That's because pre-COVID, the doctors wanted their waiting rooms full. If somebody canceled, they never wanted to be waiting for a patient. So now, we've kind of skewed the system to intentionally, underestimate the delays just a little bit. But now we're pulling out that buffer, and so you don't get that underestimation. So you get a much more precise number going out to the patient of exactly how long the delay is.
So that's 3 minutes.
Okay, so judges, questions and answers, please. Just questions. Anyone? Is everybody on team?
That's 3.
Oh, you want more questions, or I thought you said you were done?
We just did the questions for more than 3 minutes.
Sorry, guys. I'm social media posting. Okay, so that was great. Although obviously I'm not a judge of that because I'm not a judge. Okay, so let's big round of applause for Dr. Miller.
Thank you all.
And I believe element 3 is up next?
Yep.
Okay, great. So we're going to pull up the element 3 deck. Paulo, you should probably unmute yourself.
No, David.
Oh, David. So Paulo, do not judge this team. Involved with this team.
Great. So I'm David Norris. I'm chairman and CEO of Element 3 Health.
Hang on, David, stop. First of all, judges, have you finished judging Navamize? And not just judges, everybody.
Yep.
Anybody who wants to judge.
Give us some time.
Okay, so yeah, we'll wait until you're done. I know it's 5 questions. So for those of you who are playing the home game, we asked them what the clinical benefit is, and not just them, everybody. We want to know what you guys think of clinical benefit, if it's going to actually help with the COVID crisis, if it's scalable, if it's feasible, it's going to work, right? If it's fundable, whether if it was your money, your $10,000, would you give it to them? There's the 5th one. I don't have it in front of me, obviously. Anybody who has it in front of you, what's the 5th question?
Availability and presentation quality.
Yeah, all those things.
Presentation quality.
Yeah, that's the last one. There's another one too. Anyway, and then of course we ask if you have any other comments or suggestions for the teams. Now, judges, I know the reason that I need you guys to finish before the next one is you remember after you go through 8 companies what you thought right afterward. So that's why I wait till the majority of people say, yeah, we're good. And even doing just like some shorthand notes, about comments for them, that's always great. That's why, and remember, this is like a crowd effect, right? So if how many people are watching now?
It's like 75.
So if the 75 people that are watching now all give their feedback, just think about how much Jennifer is going to learn about, what she could do better, so don't hold anything back. This is, tough love. You can also tell us not to give the information directly to Jennifer with your name. So that's one of the questions. You can always go back to that first section and say, don't tell Jennifer, or whatever you want to say. Okay. So what do you guys think? Is that enough time? Did I chatter long enough? No?
Yeah.
Okay. So Okay, so I guess now we're ready, David. But you still have to wait for Heather. Heather, are we ready?
Ready.
Okay, say go.
Go.
Great. Hi, I'm David Norris. I'm Chairman and CEO of Element 3 Health. Next slide, please. So our focus is addressing social isolation and loneliness in the senior population. We are launching a new initiative to create virtual clubs that will address the specific issue with COVID-19 that we're facing. Next slide. Loneliness is a huge problem, and there's a lot of industry data. One of the most recent things that makes it easy to understand is that loneliness is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So it's a really serious issue. With the situation now, the issue is going to be even worse for our senior population, and we really want to do something about it. Next slide. The problem that we're addressing is about a $75 billion problem in the United States. So $75 billion worth of unnecessary spending in healthcare. Next slide. Our approach is really to get seniors into activity clubs. So rather than trying to convince them to go to the gym or to exercise, we ask them what they like to do, and then we get them into activity clubs that fit their interests. These clubs historically have been physical clubs. We have about 25,000 clubs across the United States that we get them into. Obviously now we are migrating over to virtual clubs that have the same kind of underlying passion. Next slide. The network we have includes over 120 different types of passions, ranging from sewing to cycling. And the idea of leveraging the passion is to create both initiative to get them to do it and stickiness to get them to stick with it. So if you take somebody that loves hiking as an example, you put them in a hiking club, they will not only do it, but they'll form social relationships that last over a long period of time. So our network of over 25,000 clubs across the United States are all facing the same problem. A lot of seniors, but they can't get together in person. Next slide. So using our extensive experience running and operating clubs, as well as managing large networks of clubs, we're launching a set of virtual clubs that we want to make free for all the seniors in the United States. Next slide. We've raised $7 million to date, including large VCs like NEA. For this initiative, we're raising $5 million to primarily support the expanded deployment of these virtual clubs to a very large audience of seniors. Next slide. Great team, and obviously Paulo's gonna not vote on this one. He's part of the team, but we have a great team. Thank you. Very focused on helping seniors. Next slide. And this is our advisory board, just to give you a sense for the kind of people that are involved in this. Charlotte Yee at AARP is Chief Medical Officer. We've got great staff, and we're very excited about being able to help seniors. Thank you very much. Last slide, please.
Great job. And
That's the people we help.
Don't forget, if he has extra time, just give it to his judging time, or his Q&A time. Okay, so judges, you got questions?
Can you talk about the business model?
We charge on a PM basis, usually around $10 PM for each member that's enrolled in the program, and we report activity back on a monthly basis to the payer so that we have an ability to monitor the members.
Okay.
David, this is Eugene. I think great concept pre-COVID times, and I'm just curious, I think on the earlier question on where are you seeing the breakdown of adapting some of these virtual tools by the age group in question? So I'm just curious if you've seen any early signs of it.
Yeah, well, certainly there are certain types of clubs that are much more conducive to being virtual. Things like painting, Tai Chi, yoga, things that people can do in their home. The main emphasis we have is maintaining social relationships. That's part of our solution. And over this time, obviously, that's a critical problem. So we're doing a significant amount of work in the virtual clubs to maintain those social relationships while also getting people off the couch and active.
Can you talk a little bit about your growth of adoption and the traction you've had since COVID started?
Yeah, we're preparing to launch the virtual clubs now. It was part of our plan to launch them in Q4, so we accelerated that plan. Initially, we were going after people that were homebound, which was a much smaller audience. Now it's everybody. So our focus is launching them in the next 2 weeks.
Can you comment a little bit more about what new programs you think you'll need to create relevant to the virtual environment since people can't get outside and, you know.
Sure. Yeah. So a lot of focus on content, classes, and activities that, again, is part of our platform. So we built a platform that we make available. We have over 100,000 users of our platform already. So that platform will be the basis for doing this, and a lot of active things that right now people are not just isolated; they're also bored. So we're trying to give them something to do that's exciting and interesting while maintaining those social relationships.
So what happens when COVID-19 is no longer a big issue?
Then it's actually quite nice. We migrate the people from these virtual clubs back into our physical clubs. So it's a natural migration for the small percentage, and it's about 5% of the members that would continue to be homebound because of other illnesses. They would continue to use it.
30 seconds left.
You're targeting the senior population with a virtual club. How do you get around the technical issues of making them actually adopt it and use it?
Yeah, we primarily focus on the seniors that are already connected and use technology on a regular basis. And we're doing some outreach to those seniors that are less sophisticated on the technology side. But for the most part, we're going after the ones that are connected. Most of them have Facebook accounts and look at pictures of their grandkids, and they all text and stuff. So we're going after that group first.
All right, that's it. That's 3 minutes.
Okay, great. So Pat, if you can queue up the next presentation.
Yeah.
And tell us who it is.
That is gonna be Ricardo.
Ricardo, are you take yourself off mute?
I'm ready to present.
Okay, so, oh, actually, no, wasn't this supposed to be Avi?
I believe there's someone before me.
Yeah, Avi, although he did kind of tell us.
Oh, I thought Avi's gonna go last. I'm sorry.
No, we put him where Health Newt was.
Okay.
So yeah,
I wasn't sure I was even going.
What's that? Okay, yeah. So do you want to just bring up COVID-19 Immune, the website?
Yeah, sure. You want me
You
to?
want to talk about? I mean, Beria isn't
Sure.
kind of really related.
Yeah, sure. Give me a second.
Beria, Byra. Perfect. See, I'm going to say that my mispronunciation of your company name isn't my fault. How do you spell it?
Beria.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know what? I will blame Svi for that one.
Okay.
You could just refer to us with epifills.
Same thing with V. I mean, is it T, Z? I mean,
It's like the sound in pizza.
I get it now, but I'm just saying that, have simpler names. Okay, so this is the website that Avi Shah Nesavir made over the last week and a half, 2 weeks.
Pretty much the last week, really. I basically spent the first couple of weeks of the epidemic having people asking me various questions about it, how it works, what they can do, that I decided to just start writing all my own notes into a centralized location. And then I just went a little out of control.
This is why I'm so glad I'm not as smart as you, because then people don't ask me questions like that. Okay.
Basically, I decided, there's so many ways that we actually can go and help to boost our own body's immunity versus all sorts of infections. There's a tremendous amount of data that exists on the common cold, on the flu, all of that, but there's also a large number of differences between the cold and the flu and the coronavirus. Even between SARS, it only shares 80% of its DNA with COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, even the nomenclature there gets a bit complicated. But there's a lot of overlap, but not quite enough. So first, I ended up spending a very large amount of time going into all of the biochemistry of what are the differences between these viruses, what bodily systems do they interact with. Like we use something called ACE2, a particular enzyme that is what the virus used to dock on the cells. We know that that's how it gets in, and therefore those are expressed in the lungs, and they're also expressed in the GI tract, which we know now we're starting to see a lot more GI-based symptoms in patients. And what I spent most of my day yesterday doing, which was actually realizing that it was also in fecal matter, and when you flush a toilet that someone has used, it actually goes and gets sprayed out into the air as an aerosol. Closing the toilet seat has a 12x difference on the total number of aerosolized particles that get shot into the air. So there are all these little things that you're able to do to actually help reduce the spread of disease and boost your own body's defense systems that most people don't know about. We're still in the process of figuring out. And I've gone and tried to create as detailed a reference as possible to figure out what are the ways that the virus works and operates, What are the targets that we can use to say, okay, is this other compound that there's a tremendous body of research on, will that apply here? Will that help us? Some of the top ones, just in terms of immune support, are things like zinc, elderberry, vitamin C, echinacea. All of these have a lot of evidence behind their boosting the immune system in various ways. And these in particular help with the things that COVID-19 actually works by and does not target the ones where it doesn't. One of the common things going around that's problematic is that any random immune booster can sometimes hurt, because the way the virus gets into the system and then causes complications, you end up getting something called a cytokine storm, where the body's own immune system has been hijacked, and the pro-inflammatory cytokines that normally trigger a healthy immune response go out of control and it starts attacking itself.
30 seconds.
Sure, when you're figuring out things of how you can help yourself, you need to go and also look at how the virus actually interacts with the body, what things are good, what things are bad. But the site also has tons of different resources, ways to get information about the virus, and even a large database of different charities and community organizations that is constantly building, growing, just putting as much information in one place as possible for people to use as a single source reference rather than all the crazy media articles floating around. There's hundreds of scientific citations for everything being cited in this entire page. And a web forum.
That's 3 minutes. That's great.
Yeah, so this is more of a showcase project. I don't think Avishai is really trying to win the contest. So if there's any questions, go ahead and shoot. I think it's an amazing resource, and thank you for making it, Avi.
No, my only comment would be actually, I think especially when it comes to sort of supplements and things like that, I'm just thinking like post COVID-19, I think Avi, you're doing great work, because maybe there bring some more science forward, right, on some of these.
How much do you have contribution from other languages and, for example, East Asian health systems and so on?
So I've been doing a lot of research into the literature around like traditional Chinese medicine and translated studies coming out of China and Italy. Right now, unfortunately, there aren't enough translations available for everything that's going around, but anytime a good article gets published with a good translation, I try to incorporate it.
But you don't have people who know Chinese language, for example, helping with this, or?
So far, they're like, it's basically me as the primary contributor. I'm trying to get it to the point where I'm getting other people submitting information, and I would love to have a full team to actually stay on top of everything. But I've put in like a couple hundred hours so far, just trying to condense everything down, read through everything. I definitely could use some help in turning it into an even better resource.
Hey, Avi, a great idea and concept. Scalability-wise, I'm assuming you're targeting this at direct-to-consumer. How are you going to cut through the noise, right? Because you could build the best toolkit in the world. A couple things is, one, you have to figure out how to get this out there and above the noise. And two, it has to be much more what I'd call end-user friendly. This is something more of a clinician would look through and take a look at and hopefully refer, but format-wise, it's got to be kind of a 5th grade reading level, very specific, very targeted, and structured in a different way. What are your thoughts around how do you make this much more direct-to-consumer friendly and increasing consumer awareness?
So that's a good question. It actually started as being more of a research for clinicians, dietitians, nutritionists, anyone who actually cares about the research and applying the research to informing practices. It is targeted more at the consumer who's a little bit more scientifically minded and actually cares to have resources that have like 50+ scientific journal research articles. You're right that I would really love to incorporate a component that's very quick takeaways, nice infographics, and then click further for more resources and density. But so far I've had to split my time between doing the actual research and creating the super user-friendly takeaways, and that's a bit of a balance. I would love to get someone to actually help create that aspect of things, just
I could
based
make
on
a
time restrictions.
There's a brilliant communicator for DOSCON in Canada. He has a company, Chocolate Mousse Factory, and he does those sorts of videos in 94 countries that are, aimed at all kinds of health things and other types of things. So that's just a suggestion of contacting him.
Sounds interesting. You send me his contact info.
That's 3 minutes.
Okay, well, that was great, Avi, and very proud and happy. I would like you to work more on your startup that we invested in, but, extenuating circumstances.
Yeah.
Okay, just got to keep beating that drum. But we do appreciate what you're doing.
If anyone has any further questions, comments, suggestions, just shoot me an email message, admin@covid19immune.com, or any of my personals.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I'd love some help.
Should I promote questions in the chat to the panelists or no?
Pardon me?
Should I promote questions in the chat to the panelists or no?
So let's get on to the fifth company, Hygia Health. But actually we need, so judges, you can judge Avishai, but honestly, he's not going to win anyway. We already did win. We already invested in him. But we had a last minute cancellation. So it's always nice to be able to, talk about some of the amazing things that our startups are doing, which a lot of them are doing amazing things. Eugene just reminded me that my social media game isn't what it used to be. If you guys look on Twitter now, we've been posting some stuff with the hashtag Medmo. It's hashtag MEDMO. That's our general hashtag for our Medstartr Momentum events. But also some of the people here, if you want to put your Twitter handles into Twitter and tweet with the hashtag Medmo, we'll be retweeting them, including you and what have you. So right now, my latest tweet is, so great to have the band back together for the COVID-19 challenge today with Health Eugene, Aline Noisette, and Paulo Machado, because we've been working together for like, what, 10 years now on stuff like this. So it's fantastic.
You're aging us all, Alex.
I'm getting younger. I don't know about you, but I think we all are. I mean, all these great health innovations.
I sure had a different hairline 10 years ago, Alex.
Yeah. Do you have hair anymore? No, I'm very happy. I mean, I helped, I wouldn't say cured my diabetes, but it's a hell of a lot better. And some of that is to the credit of the people here. Aline in particular got me out of my rut back in 2016. So thank you, Aline. Anyway, okay, so have the judges gotten to a point where they're ready? The deliberations are done. Are you guys ready for Ricardo? Oh, are we up to the break or are we up to?
No.
Okay, we got one more. Okay, so you got the deck up?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ricardo, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Judges, are you guys ready? Okay, I'm going to take your silence as assent. Oh, that's right. You're all on mute. Heather, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Take it away.
So thank you everyone for the opportunity. My name is Ricardo with Hygia Health. And we're going to be talking about the future of healthcare delivery now. You go to the next slide. There's a big market opportunity. I mean, just conservatively looking globally at outpatient healthcare, it's a $500 billion per year market in outpatient sales. That's pure, total outpatient. If you want to talk about primary care, it's about half of that. The telemedicine market is a fraction of that, 25 billion currently per year. It's maybe a little higher now because this was from, some of this data is from 2018. There's a lot of other markets, but the problem I want to focus on is why is telemedicine still just a fraction of the primary care market? Please advance the next slide. We think there's three primary reasons that are affecting adoption. And really, if you're talking about adoption of telemedicine, it's 15 to 20% of doctors use it, and they're only using it for specific conditions. They're not really using it to replace necessarily, it'll be a follow-up after post-surgery. And consumers don't trust it. So the three issues are distrust. About 55% of patients and 75% of doctors want more diagnostic capability in a video consult with a patient. The economics. So if you're talking about employer healthcare services where you get a video consult at a business, you're really talking about breaking even, making a little money or losing money. And so the economics in terms of the ROI for these telemedicine solutions isn't really there, especially in the outpatient setting. And so that brings us to the last point, which is functionality. Right now, it's mostly just a video visit, but if you could add functionality and address all these issues, you could increase adoption. Please advance to the next slide. Our solution to unlocking this potential is the Hygia Health Station. It takes blood pressure, heart rate, and it helps a medical assistant facilitate doing diagnostics on a patient. A medical assistant runs the entire process on the patient, and you can do 80% of what you can do in a doctor's office with this station. Please advance the next slide. So how do we know this works? We did a clinical trial with a Division I university. They were having students go to CVS and Walgreens after hours, and they thought, well, what if we could just do an after hours clinic with this thing? Could this defer some of that cost? We found high satisfaction students. And there, that first point there I want to point out is an 82% point of care blood test, meaning those are diagnostics you could not do with just a video consult. This is truly improving the quality of care in a video, a telemedicine consult. Please advance the slide.
30 seconds left.
Okay, so we're going to just focus on the kiosk market. There's a lot of at-home tests. I think there's a difficult issue with scaling, and the economics of that are really just a supplemental consult. That could evolve over time, and the inpatient solutions are really designed to save money for hospitals with specialists. And the market's saturated, and there's low adoption with these kiosk solutions, so we're going to focus there. We have an excellent team, and thank you guys for giving us
3 minutes. Thanks.
That's it.
Thanks for the presentation.
Hey, Ricardo, great job. Just curious, how do you position yourself versus the kiosks that are out in the market like Higgy?
Kiosks that are out in the market, like, what was the last word? I'm sorry.
Higgy.
Oh, Higgy. So that's a different category. I would say it's not even on the spectrum. That's so I've talked to companies that are in that space. That's kind of passive screening, believe it or not. A lot of the business model for that is at a pharmacy where just by having it there, people buy more blood pressure medication just because they're thinking about their blood pressure. It's not passively screening. It's designed to replace a need to see a doctor. So it goes to the economics issue of it. It's not to say that those businesses weren't successful at the time. I think those are going to fade away. Another one like that is Pursuant Health. They've evolved some more digital platforms, but we're specifically focused in the synchronous video conferencing telemedicine space.
Can you talk a little about your unit cost and then what your revenue model looks like?
Sure. Basically, subscription model, renting or leasing. We're actually looking more now at doing a percentage of the increase in revenue. So there's no risk because the doctor's offices we're talking to are interested in that model. You could do either or. There's also another way that we can monetize, which is selling or licensing our software. So we built the unit, we write software that makes the whole process work, the front end as well as the device aggregation component. So that's another way to monetize, but it's really a platform. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways we could monetize in the future. But basically SaaS or a modification of that.
Where do you think these units are going to be placed?
So we have a lot of interest initially from telemedicine and employer healthcare, but the sales cycle is really long and we just need more validation. We're still pretty early, I think. We've raised about $250,000, but we've only got like 5 units and we just completed the clinical trial. So we're working on basically outpatient primary care clinics to extend office hours. So basically you're talking about giving them a 5 to 8 appointment times for one of their practitioners that's at home to give additional marginal revenue to the practice to help them, get some of the business that would be going to CVS or Walgreens. But that sales cycle is much shorter. I mean, we can get that up and going pretty quick. There was also a question around cost, which I didn't answer directly. It's around $3,500 for us to produce a unit, maybe $4,000 soup to nuts if you want to talk about the cost of putting things together. That cost will also go down though. So,
do you have any data on the durability of these machines? Like, what's the depreciation cycle look like?
All right, last question. That's it.
We haven't had them for long enough to know. The good thing about it is it's modular though. I mean, there's a computer in there that runs Linux. You can just upgrade that. There's a much more advanced thermometer. You can just, we can write new software to connect that to the machine. I would imagine they would appreciate, like a worst case, like, home electronics, but probably not as bad.
That's it.
To everybody.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, well, so that ends the first half of Heat 1 of what may be 100 healthcare innovations for COVID. So judges and everybody, I can see a lot of you guys have putting your data in. Thank you. So when you guys are ready, so I know one of the busiest people in the world now is my friend Sunita, but I have asked her to lead a very special break, a dance break. And she is telling me yes. Sunita, among these songs, what should we put on? Or do you want to play something yourself? So, oh, hang on, we've got something else coming. I don't know what this is. Anyway, so I know there's a lot of people who love to see Bollywood dancing. I'm one of them. And Sunita gave lessons to some friends and I the other night. And I thought that it would be great if she would show, yeah, it was actually kind of stupid. It was like 3 weeks ago. So when we should have known better. But anyway, but we figured it was our last hurrah before we'd go out and, you know. Anyway, and I'm glad to report that none of us got sick. So, you know.
By the way, is it okay if I mention something about COVID-19? I know my time's out because I didn't mention that.
Sure, go ahead.
So how it relates, I think, to the current coronavirus issue is there's actually some recent at-home testing, and they got shut down by the FDA. We use LabCorp for the clinical trial and most of the testing we do. So if you have the medical, you want to test, medical assistant can swab you and then actually take that physical specimen.
Yeah, like, sending messages don't seem appropriate. Like,
can you say?
Yeah.
Okay, so those of you who are in the chat room and sending inappropriate messages, there is a way to send them just to whoever you want to send them to, and there is a way for us to kick you out, okay? So please use the common chat room only for things relating to common things for all of us, okay? So like I said, this is our first virtual event. We invited the crowd in, lots of people are here. You don't have to pay to be here. We want the broadest reach possible, but please do not abuse what we're doing.
You got a Russian troll, Alex, your first one. Congratulations, you're officially,
is that it?
Who actually cares about you?
You're too big now. You gotta figure out.
Must have been your last tweet.
Yeah, we've had this problem before. Not this particular problem, but yes. Trolls come out of the woodwork when we do stuff. And it, you know, it's just a matter of how much reach we get and things like that. So thanks to everybody who's tweeting. You know, that's one of the reasons it is, you know, attracting trolls. But we're just trying to do something here, and we're going to figure out how to throw those people out. So cut it out. Anyway, so Sunita, are you ready? Can we put the spotlight on Sunita? Actually, can you make it so like everybody sees the grid? That's beautiful.
Well,
so
if you collect the...
Okay, so I don't know if you guys know how to do this, but I'm sure I don't. So Pat, you can show, yeah, you can share your screen. Have you been sharing your screen this whole time?
No. Just change it from speaker view to gallery view in the top right of the screen.
Yeah, it's also
it only works for when people are sharing their video.
Okay, so if you want to participate in the Bollywood dance break, okay, share your video. If you don't want to, then that's your choice. I don't know what song I'm supposed to play because you need to send me an image, which I can't really understand. It's just a bunch of, I have no idea what this is. Oh, that's the conference call that she's on. That's not helpful. Okay, so I don't know. Aline, you want to substitute it? No, maybe. Okay.
Just shaking head no.
No, that's a no. Okay, well, you don't want me doing it. Okay, how about we all just stretch then, okay? Because we've been sitting here for an hour. Everybody needs to go to the bathroom. You can stretch. We can do it to Bollywood music if we want to. And
Why don't you tell them to get like 5 minutes before we start again?
Yeah, we're gonna start again in like 5 minutes. So the way that Steve was teaching me the other day, there's something about a lot of hand motions. Okay, but I'm obviously not the right person to be doing this, you know, because I'm just, you know, it doesn't work.
So Alex, you're a DJ now? DJ Alex Fair? That's kind of disturbing.
Okay, well, I've danced with you, Paulo, so, you know, I mean, you know how
Yeah,
bad I am.
I can post a picture if you want on Twitter.
Well, you know, I don't want to give the Russian trolls too much to look at. Okay.
It solved our hair problem.
What's that?
The picture I would be posting addressed our hair issue.
You know, that's really not that exciting to most people, I don't think. You know, we think it's funny, but, you know, I don't know if everybody else does.
Right.
Okay. So unfortunately, our infectious disease doctor has to go deal with actual infectious disease things. So I guess our dance break, that's pretty much the whole thing, unless somebody else wants to help. But
Are you saying that there's infectious disease issues right now?
I swear, like every hour her phone rings and somebody's got some urgent question, even like at 3 a.m. But
only there were a central resource that people could ask questions to.
Well, that'd be great. Like a website, that would be fantastic.
It's a good idea. You should work on it, Alex.
Maybe a name that didn't just talk about immunity that might not mislead things. I mean, I'm just saying, you know. But
you try to get a domain name registered around that topic these days.
Didn't you think about this, like, you know, on December 5th?
Early enough to get something, but late enough that the one I wanted was taken.
Yeah.
I wanted protect instead of immune.
Just do COVID savant, you know. It's a nice double entendre. You can also, you're making fun of yourself. Okay. So, okay, I think that that's been enough of a break.
People are still not back yet.
And people aren't back? Okay, so people are going to the bathroom. So this is networking time. So other than the troll, do we still have the troll over there?
Gone.
The troll is gone. Yay! Score 1 for the good guys. Ooh, my battery's low. Okay, so I hate this power supply is terrible. I think it worked. Hey, Heather, you're back.
I'm ready. Let's go.
So can you lead us on a stretching break?
Oh! I thought we were starting. All right.
So yeah, Heather is not only our amazing assistant, et cetera, she's also a yogi. So do we have to like get a mat or something? We have to stand up. Do you give us all instructions?
We'll just do arm stretching. I was doing it before. So everybody raise their hands. Hi.
All right.
Look at your hands. Pull one wrist.
So it's supposed to be on the left or right? We should all go the same direction as Heather.
Yeah. Deep breath through the nose, out the mouth.
Aren't we going to be spreading more COVID germs that way?
Yeah. Let's assume we're all alone. Okay, to the right or left. Deep breath through the nose.
We're alone together.
Yeah. Out the mouth.
Just like being married.
Yeah, I know, right?
No, Rob isn't watching. Marital issues created at Medmo. Wouldn't be the first time.
Called marital PTSD. That's marital PTSD, Alex.
Yes.
Right.
Well, you
That's it. Everybody should feel good.
Hey, I was given a choice. I could either do Medstartr or stay married. Clearly, I'm still doing Medstartr. So, anybody who gives you a choice like that, you don't really have to worry about.
You ready to start?
Okay. Enough oversharing.
Yeah.
That's kicking me. If I only had more people to kick me by times. Anyway, so are we ready for our 6th presenter? Who is our 6th presenter, Pat?
David Weinstein.
David Weinstein. Okay, so David, are you here?
Yep, he's here.
I am. I just came off mute.
So are any of our judges not here? I know that's a really stupid question, but that's the point. Well, I hope that all of our judges are here, and I hope, I see more people popping up. Good. George, you here? I feel like, okay, so most of you are too young for this. There used to be this TV show, Romper Room, I think, and they had like a mirror, and they would say, I look in my mirror and I see Johnny. And anyway, so I kind of feel like the Romper Room lady, but I can actually see everybody. I'm looking into my mirror and I don't see Andrea. Anyway, okay, I'll stop being weird and let you guys talk. Heather, are you ready?
We are ready.
We are ready. Excellent. And we've got your deck up. Very good. 3 minutes. So Rivertown Biosciences, go.
Great, thank you. So I am the founder and CEO of Rivertown Biosciences. If we go to the next slide. So this was a company that I spun out specifically to deal with the COVID pandemic. What we know is that there is very likely to be long-term damage as a result of moderate to severe infection. It's been estimated that between 40 and 70% of the population will become infected by this virus. The early studies out of China suggest that the patients who have moderate to severe courses of disease will develop some form or some extent of scarring in their lungs, which we call pulmonary fibrosis. Next slide, please. All right, so fibrosis is a lifelong respiratory disease that can have a very awful course in humans. We've developed RT-1840 as an inhaled protectant that prevents and or reverses pulmonary fibrosis. Next slide. So this is a drug, and it's a drug that's made from two small molecules. The small molecules are well understood and have been in people for a very long time. I can come back to this to answer any questions later. This really offers the possibility of limiting the long-term damage that we expect to see in a huge number of these patients. Next slide. All right, so what you're looking at are lung tissues. This is from a model of pulmonary fibrosis. The upper and lower are just different magnifications. The area all the way over on the left is what a normal lung should look like. You see all those holes are normal air spaces. In the setting of pulmonary fibrosis, which is right next to it, what you can see is most of those air spaces are gone. They're scarred over. And when we create that kind of scarring and treat after the disease is established, what you can see is that we've reestablished those air spaces. And that looks like very much like normal lungs. Next slide. This is looking at scarring in the lungs. The blue stuff is the scar. Left is normal lung, middle is disease, and you can see that if we treat the disease, all the scarring's gone. Next slide. We're trying to raise about $35 million. We just spun the company out, so this is sort of early times. This will bring us through an NDA filing for new drugs. Next slide. And this is who we are. So I have been in the biotech business for, as I said, about 15 to 20 years. I was a professor of pathology and neurology at Columbia Einstein. Alan is our chief operating officer. He's an experienced entrepreneur. Lisa and I have worked together for a number of years in different settings. She is our EVP for FinOps. I will stop.
Okay, so if you have a lot of background noise, make sure you turn off your mic. So that was 3 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so judges, 3 minutes for Q&A.
What sort of evidence?
Back to the use of funds slide.
Sure.
This one?
No use of funds.
Oh, sorry.
And just trying to understand again, because that was quick on where are you guys on the phase studies? Okay, so you're just
so this is these drugs have been in people, so they are tremendously safe. So we will start, but it's a different route of administration, inhaled. So we will start with a both safety and efficacy study. It's a short study, and then we will go immediately to a phase 3. All the way through, it's about 35 million, but obviously this is a tranched kind of thing where we look for funds for the initial clinical trial and then move forward. We have all of the pre-existing safety data for these molecules. So that's sort of a non-issue, and it's de-risked the investment as a result.
Have you already spoken to the FDA about getting fast-track status given COVID?
We are trying to get a meeting at the moment. It's a little difficult right now.
With something that's treating COVID?
Getting through on the phone is difficult right now.
Okay.
Well, hopefully this will help with that. And it's great to see pathology slides up there. Brings me back to my graduate school days.
Were those slides from human lung tissue?
No, that was mouse. So we haven't treated humans with this as an inhaled drug. We've used it topically. It prevents scarring in skin the same way it does it in lung. But that's an experimental model. I have to say that you know, I have used this product myself.
Inhaled?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you inhale it?
Yes. And it's perfectly comfortable, and it actually restored some function in my upper respiratory system, which what I was trying to do.
So David, best case scenario, how fast can you get this to market?
Oh, given the current scenario, we can be in the market in 2 years. Given the existing, it's been in 600 people. I know a lot about its safety. It's an incredibly safe drug at very high dose. We're giving it a very low dose here.
Do you have any understanding of its efficacy in terms of not necessarily preventative, but down the road 2 years after you've had this damage done, or is this only really useful in a preventative sort of capacity?
No, that's really a good question. In the animal models, we actually cause the disease. And these animals are really sick, like they can't move around the cage or are badly groomed. We treat and we restore both function and restore behavior, as well as
after there's been scarring.
That's correct.
Okay. Well.
And maybe the last question. Obviously, the data is still young on what you know, the potential post-COVID pulmonary fibrosis looks like. And any early data to show what to compare to what you've done to date?
All right, last question.
Yeah, you know, no, I'm a neurologist. I don't treat COVID patients for the most part.
I understand.
So no, and it's not approved. So I'm not going to throw it into really sick patients. Having said that, I have a lot of experience with this drug in people. We made the drug, and as I said, it's been through over 600 people, and it is really well tolerated and extraordinarily safe, including in cancer patients. So if I can throw it into 400 cancer patients for 2 years at 4 grams a day and not make them sick, I am pretty comfortable that we're not going to run into an unexpected problem.
Okay, fantastic. So good.
Dios, let's get it out there.
I agree. All I need is money.
I'd like a little off-label use. So
I should say off-label use. We've actually grown hair using a related compound, which is
send it my way.
Seems to be a recurring theme today. I think you just got a couple more judge votes.
Well, you said it enough times that I thought I would throw it in.
Hey, they make fun of me, you know.
That sounds like that Viagra story.
No, well, not really, but that's another story. We can talk about that later.
We don't need to. Okay, so judges are deliberating for a moment. This is the point where I would fill this space with some, you know, innocuous, inane jabber. I know, Pat, so how do you think this is going so far?
I think it's good. I'm just seeing if people are sending the chat. People have hi, can I change?
Anybody want to give, you know, high fives to Pat? I mean, he's doing a great job running this thing, right? So.
Hi, Pat.
Hello. I'm sorry, I'm just answering some questions.
Yeah, he's busier than a one-arm paper hanger, but he's just, you know, doing everything. I just provide, you know, so. Anyway, so. Okay, stop chatting and let's queue up the next guy. Who is the next guy, Pat?
That would be, I'm going to say his name wrong. Soja? He said his nickname, I forgot what it was.
Soja Boy?
SJ.
Soja Boy? How's that going to go? Anyway, okay. We should have, you know, we actually did an event once where we did walk-up music for everybody, and it was super fun, except then we couldn't release the video. My favorite was a guy from ONC by the name of, what's his name, Aline? I always mess it up. Stefan Kanye. Kanye. I always call him Steven. He hates it when I do that. But it's really a terrible mental block. Anyway, so I told him he could speak at our conference in 2016, but only if he called his talk, "Are you down with ONC?" And it was about all the ONC programs for innovation, things like that. What he didn't know is that I made his walk-up music, "Are you down with OPP?" Which, you know, I thought was hilarious, but I don't know if everybody else did. I don't hear anybody laughing, but maybe it's because everybody's on mute. That's the real problem with virtual conferences.
That's the reason.
Okay,
You
the
are
Alex
funny,
comedy routine.
Alex.
I see some people smiling. Yes.
You are funny. We are smiling.
Okay, good. Thank you. Oh, well, you're just saying that because you want us to invest in you. The problem with becoming an investor is you don't trust anybody anymore. Anyway, yeah. So remember when I was just a simple event manager? Anyway,
Not really. That's not the reason.
never really happened, but I pretended to be. Anyway, okay, enough of this. So next guy's up. We got his deck. Beautiful. Okay, Soldier Boy. Let's hear what you got.
Hi, thanks for the kind introduction.
Calling you Soldier Boy? Oh,
Sorry, I forgot.
feedback. Give him an extra 3 seconds for that.
Okay. My name is Dr. Shaurya Sanyal, and I'm the CEO of Think Biosolution. We are one of the world leaders in building customized remote patient monitoring platforms for digital health enterprises in US and Europe. And today I'm going to present in front of you our newest platform, the at-home COVID-19 monitoring platform. This platform solves 4 main problems. Self-assessment, using a finger-based pulse oximeter. It measures how the patient's blood oxygen saturation is going down from normal, which is about 98 to 90. And this helps them to understand how their COVID-19 has affected their lungs when they're in quarantine. So they will be able to self-assess and their next of kin will be able to self-assess their condition. Prioritizing hospital admission. So when they go to hospitals will be able to decide which patients should be admitted first based again on this early warning score based on blood oxygen saturation tracking. Treatment efficiency. When the patient arrives at a hospital, doctors already know the patient's history from the dashboard of continuous monitoring, so they don't have to spend time understanding the patient's condition. And remote monitoring, allowing doctors to clinical teams to manage thousands of patients at far away without coming in contact with them. Next slide. This is our device. We have a Bluetooth-based pulse oximeter that then collects biometric data sent over Bluetooth to phone, which is then sent to the cloud and then to a doctor's dashboard, which is EMR integrated. Next. So our device is better since we have a patented early warning score and a single device system, which makes it easy to deploy and easy to launch. We can deploy our product in 2 weeks, which is about twice as fast as our competitors. And we're cheaper. Our product costs $250 per year for a kit, where a product competitors using 4 to 8 devices costs about $400 to $900. Next. So we have prior to COVID-19, we had about $15 million worth of letter of intent for our platform. Now at the moment, we are looking to deploy about $2 million worth of product in the next 6 to 9 months. We have done clinical validation testing of the platform with University College Dublin, URMC, Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, and a clinical trial in Bantry. We have talked about this platform with FDA in our pre-submission meetings, and we have done we have got our single device RPM manufacturing ready in Q4 2019. Next. This wouldn't have been possible with a great team. I'm a World Health Organization digital roster member. I also designed the standard in US for remote patient monitoring. Kaushik is my CTO. I've been working on this for the last 8 years, and he designed the entire stack for remote patient monitoring. And Shub is our sales manager who got $15 million worth of LOI in 9 months. Next, please. We're now looking for $500,000 Series A investment at a $6 million valuation to achieve $2 million in sale. 50% of the money would be used to have an inventory of pulse oximeters, so we can impact lives of 8,000 patients in the next 9 months. This will be followed up by a $2.5 million Series A investment by later this year to launch our second and third platform.
Thank you. That's 3 minutes. Thank you.
That is all. Thank you.
Fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and ask the first question. That $15 million in LOI, was that for this company or some other company?
This company. So before COVID-19 stuck, we were doing a single device RPM. We raised $1 million from New York's, majority of which came from New York State 2 years ago to do manufacturing of our single device in New York. This was projected to be launched in 12 months, but with the COVID-19 crisis, we pivoted and launched this new COVID-19 platform. And we now have $2 million worth of orders from existing customers that say that we also want to do COVID-19 monitoring, and we are talking with you about.
Suja, stop. Okay, that's good. You don't want to spend 3 minutes on one question.
Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Next question, It seems like what you're monitoring right now is pretty much just blood oxygen saturation.
Sure.
Is there any other aspect of this device? Like I can get a blood oxygen measuring device for like 20 bucks online. Why
Sure.
should I pay $250 for?
So that device is not FDA approved, right? So their accuracy is questionable. And going forward, our Quasar device, which I didn't get time to explain, has 9 different parameters and can measure 9 different things. But to rapidly respond to this market, we are using already third-party FDA approved devices. And among parameters like respiratory rate, blood oxygen saturation, and temperature, blood oxygen saturation is the most important parameter according to the World Health Organization guideline for measuring lung sickness, as we all know.
Quick question on your positioning. So are you positioning this towards keeping, I'll say, chronically ill patients at home and remote monitoring them, or are you positioning in the current time saying that your solution can actually, because I haven't seen any sort of biomarkers on using the oximeter at home as a validation for if you have COVID or not. So I'm just trying to understand the positioning.
Oh, no, all of them. So all of our competitors, if you go a couple of slides back, who are doing remote patient monitoring, are also kind of doing this. This is such a huge market with more than 70% of the population projected to get COVID-19. So people are, at least the top 2 are pivoting to doing blood oxygen saturation as the key marker. So this is not something new. The first platform is not really novel and IP protected like our second and third platform would be, but it's something that will impact lives of 8,000 people in the next 9 months, and that's our goal.
So this is for people who have been diagnosed but are right now at home because they don't need critical care, right?
Yes, these are people who have been diagnosed or are falling sick and hospitals are overcrowded and they want to keep those people at home and monitor them at a safe distance. Thank you for the question. Yes.
Hi, Shorja. This is Ricardo. Quick question.
Last question.
Is the mobile monitoring device, is the respiratory rate capture for that FDA approved?
Oh, for our first device, this finger-based pulse oximeter?
No, I had looked at this and it's like a device that you place on the patient. So,
so our device is called Quasar. Yes, that device would be FDA approved to measure pulse respiratory rate. Absolutely, we can measure 7 different parameters, and respiratory rate is one of them. The other 4 are heart rate variability, blood oxygen saturation, core body temperature.
Are all of those? What I'm asking is, are those 510 or class 1, 510K class 1 approved now?
No, for the Quasar device, we just started the process and then COVID-19 hit. But we went through the ISOs for heart rate, blood oxygen saturation, and respiratory rate. But we haven't submitted the 510K application yet for the first device. No.
Okay, thank you. That's it. 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be very happy to answer any questions that you have on the chat, for example.
Okay, and make sure if you're going to do a chat question, you can click the to, and you can say who you're going to send it to. So you don't have to send it to everybody. You can send it right to him. I also would like to encourage you to all, if you like, drop your LinkedIn or what have you into the chat box. We're going to make that available minus the Russian spam, but including more of my spam. Thank you, Pat.
Sorry.
Anyway, so for general consumption. Okay, so judges, you're doing your thing while I'm distracting people. Everybody done? You can go nod. No, yes, maybe, yes. No, I think it's very impressive innovations we're seeing today. Very happy with this with you guys. Very inspiring. And I don't know if you've been paying attention on Twitter, but there's been a little bit of a Twitter storm. People are talking about it, and it's good. It's nice, and it's probably leading to more people coming, including those bots. Anybody have any questions or comments about the format while we have a moment here while the judges are deliberating? Suggestions, advice, fashion advice. Hey, does anybody want one of these t-shirts? They're pretty cool. I don't know if you've seen them. So this is the Medmo World Tour t-shirt inspired by heavy metal concerts and what have you. These were supposed to be our tour dates, our locations. You can see it's somewhat fictional now. Honestly, it always was kind of fictional. You know, as my partners around the world know that, you know, an event like this, you know, is assembled in a week. We plan to go to Barcelona and Berlin, London, Bogota, pretty much anything starts with a B. I don't know if we're going to get there this year. But we did do 17 contests in 11 cities last year. We made it to 9 cities already this year. So, you know, the tour goes on, and the t-shirts were ordered, what, like a week before COVID became a thing?
Yeah.
And they arrived, and I was like, now what am I going to do? So if
Did
anybody
y'all
wants
just get free t-shirts?
Alex, you're still doing it. You're just doing it virtually.
yeah, except it's just going to be New York, New York, New York, New York, New York.
What are you talking about? I think you're doing the world tour today. How many countries are represented right now?
We're flying around the world right now in my yes. No, it's true. I mean, actually, how many countries are there? I know we got England, Spain,
Germany.
Eugene's not really Germany. I mean, he's sort of Germany.
Well, this guy named Andrew.
I'm in 3 places at the same time, so you know.
So just type in the city you're in your chat. You'll see.
Yes, that's a great idea. So everybody, if you're not from New York, tell us where you are right now. That would be very interesting. Thank you, Paulo. Have you done this before?
Nope.
Can I just hand you the mic? Is this my mic drop moment, my mouse drop moment? I just go like this, and it's going to be too loud. I'm not doing it. Anyway.
You can tweet out that you're going to be doing a weekly world tour.
We are doing this. Honestly, we do events like every 2 or 3 weeks. It's ridiculous.
Way better.
Yeah. We were going to do a bunch at South by, right, Aline? We had some really good plans for that. Going to videotape it and film it. Anyway, okay, so we've filled enough space. Do we have the next contestant?
You can have, Alex, you can have the portion of the proceeds from the t-shirt go for helping for COVID. That'll help people to buy it.
That would assume that I'm actually selling the t-shirts.
Yeah, give them away.
You send this one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess you know what? Maybe I should do a crowdfunding campaign and sell t-shirts. Anybody think I should do that?
Yeah, that's what people are going to do now.
Yeah, I know, crowdfunding, that doesn't work anymore.
Hey, I was thinking about doing a weekly I survived the second week of the pandemic t-shirt series.
Yeah.
Gotta catch them all.
I think you could do some really good graphics on that. Anyway, maybe we should do a contest to see. That's how we actually do all of our design. We run contests on 99 designs and say, so that's where this one came from. It's where our Medstartr logo came from. Okay, so our next contestant, who is it? Or is their deck up and ready?
Yep.
Really? 'Cause I don't really see it. You got to share your screen or something.
Oh yeah. Well, I was waiting for you to.
You're waiting for me to shut up? That's never going to happen. Okay, so Carr from MicroX Labs. Are you ready? Yes.
Yes, I'm ready.
Carr Jane. And Heather, are you ready?
Yep, let's go. I'm ready.
Okay.
So we're building a handy and sensitive tool for monitoring of COVID patients in emergency care or in quarantine. Next slide, please. So as we speak, our professor at Tübingen, Professor Wehlerwen in Germany, he's repurposing an anti-malarial for COVID. And the observation of his and the other clinicians is that the patients are spiraling down from mild, moderate to severe cases in a matter of hours. So the bigger question we want to address is how to monitor these cases. Next question, please. So as per the recent Lancet publication from Wuhan, there are few biomarkers and the cellular levels like low platelet, low lymphocytes, and cytokine storms which are being observed in these kind of patients. Next slide, please. So the these biomarkers are mostly elevated, like interleukin-6, lactate, CRP, lymphophin, low platelets, and low lymphocytes. And if these are monitored frequently, the patients can be protected from spiraling from mild to moderate to severe to critical and to preventing death as well. Next slide, please. So we are building a point of care solution with 20 microliter of the blood, which can do the 14 parameter CBC, and another set of cartridges which can do these inflammatory biomarkers, CRP, procalcitonin, and lactate. And the results can be streamed to the physician in the real time. And the instrumentation can be preferably kept at home or at the emergency care. The important aspect is that because no cross-contamination of the blood is taking place, the cartridge can also be incinerated. Next slide, please. So the workflow, just like in AccuCheck, you prick it, you put it in a instrument, and in a matter of 7 minutes, you get the full panel out. Next slide, please. So we have validated the prototype on at 2 clinical sites for cellular counts, and we have published in various journals, including Nature. Now we are integrating the assays for CRP, lactate, and procalcitonin. And we believe in next 5 to 6 months, we can do a research use only launch for drug repurposing purpose. Next slide, please. So we have 1 granted patent, 2 PCT pendings, and publications in various peer-reviewed journals. Next slide, please. So the left one is on the Nature Scientific Report, and the right one is the new one on the Lancet. Next slide, please. So this is like the first clinical trial which we did on this kind of cartridge. The left one is the cartridge, and right one is the instrumentation. Both of them are work in progress, but it's right now deployable on our research use purpose. It's readily deployable. Next slide, please.
30 seconds left.
We are doing manufacturing in Germany in ISO and GMP level facility. Next slide, please. The unit economics is subscription-based model. Next slide, please. Our first positioning is in July, where WHO trials at Tübingen is taking place for anti-malarial repurposing. Next slide, please. So we have a strong team of global health advisors. Next slide, please. We are translational researchers, and Professor Velavan is an expert in vaccine trials and repurposing drugs. Last slide, please.
30 minutes.
So this is Velavan with wearing a COVID mask. Thank you.
That was great.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering, we hear a lot about the testing kits for
Yes.
determining whether or not someone has the coronavirus at all. And then we've been hearing about solutions to monitor respiratory function, blood work. Where does your monitoring device and process fit in the life cycle of testing and monitoring the disease through its progression?
It's a prognosis device. Once the patient is admitted, he's showing symptoms, mild symptoms, before he spirals to the next symptom, next level, next critical level, he can monitor these 6 biomarkers. So this is a prognostic tool.
What's the frequency of testing that's required?
Well, it is advisable every 2 hours because interleukin levels fluctuates like anything. Procalcitonin ramp ups very slowly. And the interesting biomarker which we have discovered is monocyte distribution weight, MDW. So these are 3 interesting biomarkers which came out from our trials. Cytokine storm, as I said, fluctuates very rapidly and right now is being used.
Sorry, Prakar, what was it, the frequency of testing? You say 2 hours?
Yes, for interleukin 6, because IL-6 is fluctuating very, very rapidly. Procalcitonin takes days, but IL-6 monitoring has to be done 2 to 3 hours.
Are you able to measure other things like interferon gamma, IL-18, IL-8?
No. So, Avisha, we have reports from several publications. After that, we picked 6 biomarkers. 3 of them are cellular biomarkers, and rest 3 are like procalcitonin, lactate, CRP, and interleukin 6. So these are the top biomarkers which have to be monitored for the patient to, to move from asymptomatic to mild to moderate to severe. So all these 7 parameters only. This is what our proposition is.
So, I know focusing on COVID-19, but it's also you guys are building a business around it. So post COVID-19, the flexibility of
so this is a sepsis monitoring tool in summary, sepsis.
How much does each test cost? We're doing this for every patient you're monitoring every 2 hours.
So our proposition is there are 2 different set of cartridges, one for doing cellular counts, low platelet, lymphocyte and monocyte distribution which we already have ready. And the same cartridge architecture, I repeat, the same cartridge architecture will be used for the other 3 biomarkers as well. This is what our selling point is. The same cartridge architecture can pull down the injection molding price and can be repurposed for the other blood tests. This is what we are doing right now.
All right, last question, please.
And how do you communicate you have a predictive model, and then how does it notify the clinician or?
I mean, right now we do not have any cloud-based architecture, but that is simple with, I mean, we believe we should be able to do that. It could be pumped, it could be sent to cloud, it could be sent to mobile. That is an easier challenge to do, actually.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's 3 minutes.
Alex, you're muted.
That's
I
probably,
did.
you know, that's what happens when my associate gets frustrated with me. He really just wants to mute the cigarette smoke. So we can't do this in the middle of an event. So so judges are doing their things. So Pat, do you want to support the women's room? You want a pink hat and the pink pussycat hat? I'll put on my LL Cool J hat. Okay, so we've got funny hats. Everybody, if you got a funny hat, please put on your funny hat at this point. This is the seventh inning stretch. It's where everybody should, you know, think about doing something different or something like that. Meaning maybe going on to your next activity. But we are going to continue. We've got 3 more great pitches. So if the judges are ready, we can get Helpsy's deck up.
Portugal's ready.
I'm sorry, I'm skipping ahead.
Alrighty.
Sorry, Sangeeta, you're on my mind.
David
Okay.
Brown.
Okay, David, are you ready? David, is this our first no-show? David.
He's getting his hat.
That could. What do you got there for a hat there? Oh, you have amazing hats. It's like a steampunk kind of thing going on, Avi, right?
That's right.
I feel like if I was Howard Stern, you'd be like Stuttering John or something. Yeah. You know, definitely not Baba Booey.
You were not Howard Stern.
Sorry, I don't watch Howard Stern anymore, but you know, so my references might be dated. I really like that hat, Pat. That's really fantastic.
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, somebody made that for me like 10, 15 years before the whole, you know, Pink Pussycat. What was that? Pussy Riot was in jail. Anyway, when everybody started supporting that idea. Okay, so
I guess David's on here.
So this is our first no-show. Look at that. Okay, well, if he comes back, then he'll be able to pitch, I guess. So
Frees up time on the schedule at least.
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, because if it wasn't that, you know, we could, you know, we could take you through his deck, but it really won't be the same thing, right? Okay.
Yeah. Well, we told him if he didn't show up that.
Oh, is that the guy?
I think it might be.
That was the guy. You know, the problem sometimes with startups is they don't know what's good for them. You know, this is a good thing. Despite all of the silliness and the jokes, this is some pretty serious business. And it's important, you know, that you show up. Okay, so let's move on to the 9th. No, actually, for all you judges, you're going to have to skip through David's section.
I don't think you can. You have to actually score it. It tells me.
You know, I know. Just, it's all right. You know, I see the data afterward. I know what happened. So just put in 1s or 9s.
So we're skipping Tychos, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We can come back to it. You can always hit the back button, go back to a previous section. Yeah, I didn't realize that I'd set everything to be required. But this is our first time using.
No problem. Looks great.
No, I think it's fantastic. We actually usually enter the data by hand, so it's particularly annoying. But, you know, I do like paper. What can I say? I'm from healthcare. So, okay. So we got the next one up. Who's next?
Helpsy.
Oh, so it is Sangeeta.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
But,
Yay!
I thought we
Finally.
did we forget somebody? That was 9? I thought that was 8.
We ran through.
Now he's gonna make us actually look at the look at our plan as if we actually had one. Oh yeah, Micro X went. So this is Tycho's Pharma that didn't show up, right? So this must be Helpsy. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that. I was right. Okay, so Sangeeta.
Oh, you know what the problem is? We're probably at 6 beginning with because I didn't have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deck? Yes.
Okay. So timer ready?
I'm ready.
Give me a
Okay.
second. I'll show you this.
Hang on.
Deck.
We're not
Yes.
ready yet. Hang on. There you go. Okay, whenever you're ready.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yep, beautifully.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. So my name is San, and I'm going to be talking about HelpC. It's world's first artificial intelligence nurse for symptom management and navigation. Next slide. The core problem that we are trying to solve is two things when it comes to COVID. One is the people who are high-risk patients who have complex conditions, multiple comorbidities, critical illness, helping them to stay stable while they are at home and to keep their health in check so they don't have decline in their condition or don't have adverse events as situation is changing with COVID, and a lot of people are experiencing delays in their treatments or are having to push back because of the risk of COVID. The other population that we are helping also, the other population that is affected by this is is people who have in fact got COVID. As we know, the treatment is essentially you stay home, do supportive care, monitor your symptoms, and and self-quarantine. So again, there are a lot of questions there, a lot of challenges that people face, both from a knowledge perspective, managing their side effects at home, emotional needs, navigation needs, financial and other resource needs. How should they be handling it? And then the data being sent back to the government agency so that we can track and analyze what's going on. So there's a lot of disconnect and challenges there. Next slide. So where we come in is essentially what I have done as a cancer nurse. Next slide, please. Is clone my brain as a nurse onto a solution as a computer scientist and a nurse and a holistic practitioner. And over time have cloned the brains of over 60 experts from around the world in this area. So based on their condition, we are able to, and their treatments, we're automatically able to create a care plan that anticipates their side effects, their physical, emotional, social, and support needs, and creates a comprehensive care plan to address it. Think of it like having a care team of a nurse educator, a social worker, a psychotherapist, and a nutritionist in your pocket. So we automatically create that care plan, and then the AI nurse SAN will support them throughout the journey. In addition, we have telemedicine, and we can add clinical or non-clinical coaches to the platform. Next. So by doing this, we anticipate patients' need, create a care plan, educate them throughout the journey, and escalate the care if needed. Next.
30 seconds left.
By doing this, we are able to provide full end-to-end support to people who are going through health issues and need support at home. Next. This work is guided by world experts in the industry, and it has, next slide, proven in multiple clinical studies to improve outcomes and reduce cost of care by $5,000. The product is currently being used by health insurance companies, employers, and for COVID alone, it is being used by employers. It's live, and it is being partnered with state governments, and we are in contact with CDC and other government organizations. So it is already being used for COVID with employers, health plans, and providers.
All right, that's 30 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to answer any questions you may have, and looking forward to connecting and supporting more people.
I have two questions. One is, how do you, excuse me, this is not the virus, it's just a cold. How do you connect to insurance if someone wants to use this as a telehealth option? That's part A. And part B is, do you have MDs that are overseeing or supervising diagnoses and medication prescription?
Yes, so for the first question, we are working with health insurance companies, and they provide it as a companion solution so that it can guide people at home and give them support, as well as manage the capacity of their clinicians because their lines are overloaded right now. So it helps to bridge that gap. Second question about how we connect to clinicians. So we have telehealth and an entire EMR built into the platform. So by doing that, we are able to we do remote patient monitoring, so we can measure their temperature, identify any flags in their symptoms and condition. And that will guide the clinicians on, it will notify the clinicians in terms of the issues, and we can do telemedicine and provide consult to the patient with the appropriate providers from the health insurance themselves.
When you spoke about downloading your brain, so to speak, I'm curious what type of technology is actually behind that. And then is that a static model or something where it's evidence-based and as you get more feedback, it's continually updating?
Yeah, so I'm a computer scientist and a cancer nurse and holistic researcher. We are on video right now. I built video streaming on the phone, Skype mobile before. So I essentially cloned the clinical knowledge in a context-sensitive manner, so that it guides people on how to manage those symptoms. So it's all evidence-based, and it's built not just by me, but by over 60 experts in the industry, the ones who are leading this area. And that's the core knowledge. And then as we are supporting people, we have so far supported 23,000 people in cancer alone. It helps us to understand what are the patterns, and that are helping to improve the guideline, and derive insights into what works, what doesn't work, how long are we seeing certain symptoms, intensity of those symptoms, etc. So that is guiding our knowledge and improving how we can provide more accurate information to people, as well as provide data for researchers and for clinicians to to use real time for improving their guidelines.
Thank you.
San, great job. Just curious, this is going to require quite a bit, very large numbers, by the way, in terms of tens of millions of people it's available to. You give me a sense of what it's like to drive consumer adoption and utilization, because that always seems to be the Achilles heels whenever you have something you're expecting a consumer to use.
All right, last question.
Yeah, so our bread and butter core area has been in managing complex conditions which require care at home, like cancer, cardiac, stroke disease. For those, we see that on average, people engage every week initially. So we have about 70 to 90% of people will engage one or more times during the week. We have very high demand for our solution. So in fact, people are requesting for the solution, and we have a nonprofit version of the solution that we make accessible. The stickiness factor is pretty high because we are the only platform that does real-time symptom management.
All right, thank you very much. That's 2 minutes.
Okay, so that was fantastic. If you want to go back to, actually, go to my screen. I'll share my screen. So it's really, really inspiring to see all these great innovations. Sangeeta actually was very helpful connecting us to for another project that we were doing, which I think is useful. But so the judges will do your final deliberations. If you want to go and make sure all your data is entered, answer the survey questions at the end, not just the judges, everybody else as well. And our database will collect everything, hopefully. That could be a problem if it doesn't. The funny thing about a Google Sheet is you only see once everybody says they're finished. So it looked like a whole bunch of people were working on it, but I don't know what actually is going to come in. That's why I like paper. You know, it's safe. Anyway, so a funny thing happened when we launched this COVID challenge just about almost exactly a week ago. A ton of innovators, you know, how many innovators did we go through?
55.
55 plus another 5 or so came in today. Plus there's another dozen that I know about that asked to pitch. And we're actually creating a showcase on Medstartr.com for everybody to list all their innovations. And then we'll just keep pumping out, you know, as much sharing online. And we'll ask all of you for your help too, so that everybody can see all these ideas. We'll also chop up this video into pieces, take out almost everything that I said, which is probably a good thing, and be able to do that. But so like I was saying, a funny thing happened when we launched this. Not only did we get innovators, we also had got people, suppliers. So I don't know if you can see my screen right now. Did I share it yet? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not, Alex. So, so all of these suppliers of all of the equipment and supplies that we need right now to address this crisis, whether it's testing kits, gloves, of course, ventilators, they've been reaching out to us saying, hey, do you know how I can, talk to Andrew Cuomo about helping him out with his 25,000 ventilators? And of course, we've got this enormous community. So if we look, we can find a way to talk to Andrew Cuomo. And so we did. We talked to them this morning. And we'll be helping connect the innovators who have these solutions to the people who need them. But we took it up one step further, and we actually took the 10 different companies that had reached out to us and started making sure that the pricing was good. So if you want to just look at ventilators, we've got like 8 different ventilator prices here, from actually more than, I guess it's 8 models from 5 manufacturers. Plus, we're supporting this open source ventilator project to make more of them, because the problem is that if you look at these in-stock quantities, they're not enormous. So, we can sell 1,000 of them today, but it's a hard thing to come by. Masks, testing kits, it's an amazing resource, and we've been giving this to. It's not perfect yet, obviously. We've been giving these to states, large hospitals, and things like that, and then helping them connect to the folks that are actually making all this stuff. So Sangeeta connected us to another state where she's actually being implemented for her COVID solution. And this is the way we all solve this, right? We all work together. And, Medstartr is essentially a platform and a connector platform to help people do this kind of thing. We're taking a little bit further here, and a bunch of our investors, including Heather's husband and John, my brother, and Josh Rader are leading this effort. So if you know anybody who needs supplies, bulk quantities, 100,000 to 1 million units, of course, ventilators in smaller quantities, testing kits, we have all that stuff. So if you want a copy of this or what have you, just make sure you email me, alex@medstartr.com, and we'll get that to you. Okay, so I think I've talked enough about other stuff, so the judges are doing their thing. Now, we wanted to have a panel to discuss among the judges and among everybody, to be honest, the problems you're seeing that innovators could help solve, okay? And so I'm gonna ask Pat to take notes and all of the problems that are noted, or you can actually do it yourselves too into the chat box, lay out the problems you see that you would love to see an innovation come and help solve for the COVID crisis. Be as specific as you can. I've asked my friend Aline Noisette, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I love the way she says it though. To lead this discussion, I only told her about it a few hours ago. Sorry.
And Alex, Aline and I, so this is Eugene, been exchanging. Obviously, it's getting a bit late in Spain, so I'll also kind of chime in and try to drive this a bit. And okay, good. It wasn't my battery though. That's good. So I think, Alex, while you're tallying things up, maybe I'll just kick it off. I think Aline, you're probably unless you want to get a double espresso, but I'll help out here and jump in.
No, that's exactly what we need. Thank you.
Yep. So I think, maybe a couple of observations first, and I'm curious on other judges. I think, we're looking at things from a biology perspective, and it was amazing to see, the presenters today looking at it from a biologic perspective, even post-COVID, right? So the molecular side of things. Also the frontline queuing and triage, right? And I won't sort of start matching the names, but also to the diagnostics. And I think, if we're looking, and my daughter just walked in earlier, showed me the COVID tracker that we now in US surpassed China officially. So, I think part of that is everything. Yeah, Paul, I see your, I don't know if that's where we want to be really surpassing.
I think Trump will be saying he's #1 again.
True.
Yeah, we surpassed China. Woo.
Yeah. I wish these could be sort of better jokes around this, but unfortunately there aren't. And I think it's amazing to see again some of the innovators that are coming to light and working and cooperating together on all of this. And maybe just break this up, and whoever wants to chime in and how, just talk a little bit about the diagnostics. So if anybody has the knowledge in diagnostics, and I know, and I forget the name of the company, but maybe just chat a little bit about what do we see happening on the diagnostic side, both on antibody, but also other biomarkers. So if anybody's qualified, can chime in and just talk about where do we see this going in the next literally 30, 60 days.
There's actually something very interesting that I just saw, which is, so I wear this, which is called an Oura Ring. It's a personal sleep tracker that also measures like heart rate variability, body temperature.
Which, by the way, closed 28 million investment. So just a side note, just last week, I think.
They're great. And they recently launched a study from their users who can opt in to essentially give their data along with like regular questionnaires. And they're essentially trying to use their device as that sort of advanced warning symptom tracker. And if you have your own data over the course of several months and it starts seeing your body temperature shifting and your heart rate variability shifting and your heart rate shifting, like it has a decent amount of potential to be that sort of advanced warning system, as well as sort of like what we were talking with some of the other companies, just ability to know whether or not you're getting more serious.
Can I chime in at
Sure.
this point? Yeah, because this is quite relevant to what we are doing as well. So we have to remember that COVID-19 is a respiratory disease at the end of the day. So if you get infection, the first thing that happens is blood oxygen saturation. And I think in the next 6 months, we will see a lot of our competitors in the remote patient monitoring space are already doing this, which is great news for the patients, is blood oxygen saturation based tracking. But I think then from 6 to 24 months timeline, we will see multiple devices being used simultaneously for like combining blood oxygen saturation with core body temperature, with heart rate, to have more advanced predictors necessarily for COVID-19. And we think that will be really, that may not be as effective as a blood test and have a binary yes, no, but it will be really helping managing conditions. And this is one of the questions I had for Alicia is, what about care pathways? Is there anyone in the community that are thinking about visual care pathways where think about this as a Google map, and patients have a journey and they can now see when they're coughing and their temperature is going up, where they are, what to expect next. Is anyone else in the community trying to build those kind of visual tools to help patients at home tackle?
There are a lot of resources that are going around in terms of like infographics that will track your progression of disease symptoms. And those are definitely circulating. There's a lot of different versions of them.
Sure.
I'm curious as to Singapore and some other countries are putting out antigen tests and then combining that with contact tracing. And I'm wondering if anyone's doing that in the US.
I haven't seen any antigen testing on any sort of wide scale basis. I know there are a couple companies that are working on developing them, but definitely nothing that I've seen so far that's actually hit the market. It would be very useful if we could get those now.
So I'm if anyone's interested in possibly discussing collaborating, I'd be interested.
And Yelena, where are you residing? Just that
I'm at I'm in Pittsburgh at University of Pittsburgh Medical.
The problem, if I can add here, the problem with contact tracking is that there are all sorts of HIPAA implications.
Yes.
You can't do it without anonymously.
Consent, yeah.
And so that's not going to happen easily.
Yeah. So HIPAA has been suspended, so I'm very curious to see how aggressively they suspend it. I've been working with a couple of companies looking at contact tracking.
I think we're getting to the point where contact tracking is going to start becoming less useful given the widespread nature of it, the long incubation period. People can be asymptomatic, but the antigen testing is something that's the other part of the picture, which will really allow us to start figuring out those individual, like who needs to be locked down and who doesn't.
No, I hear you. It goes back to once there's more testing, you either had it and now you have titers for it and you're safe, so to speak, almost like an STD, where everybody goes through and I've been tested and I'm fine. When was the last time you had a test? And you'll see green and yellow and red zones in terms of where people are going to be able to physically distance. That's the idea.
Adding to safe health.
I'm on it.
Like I just was on the phone or Zoom session with Shanghai, which interestingly enough, just 2 days ago, even, you know, they're going back out to the restaurants with masks. And there is a traffic light kind of a system on their phone, which again, we can suspect what's behind the scenes, but it's the, you know, green, yellow, red. And the question becomes, what are they really tracking behind the scenes? But you cannot walk into a restaurant or a store without showing it on WeChat or Ali.
Yep, that's where it'll probably be here eventually. It's just going to take us a little longer to overcome that, because if you're safer, we for instance, we allow people to know exactly where we are for better traffic times to get somewhere, right? They're tracking where I'm at. They know who's in front of me. They show you green, red, yellow. It's probably not going to be that different.
What I would also love to see is some type of easy stool testing. Yes, this is a respiratory disease, but there's a lot of emerging evidence showing that it's also gastrointestinal, and many people are actually presenting with no respiratory symptoms, some gastrointestinal symptoms, or even some of the people who during the incubation period and they're experiencing nothing, you can detect it in their feces. So it's another pathway that the disease takes based on like the ACE2 receptors that are present in the entire GI tract. That's something that's not been addressed as much that I've been seeing, but I think we really need.
So agreed, Avish, and I think Brennan Spiegel is tracking with his team that pretty closely. So if some of you guys are following him, Brennan Spiegel on Twitter, and I think, you know, they're reviewing papers on the GI issues, you know, 24/7.
I think the antibody test will be very helpful if that starts to become available, especially for healthcare professionals such as ourselves, because then we know if we have had it and we are now immune to it, we can actually go and take care of people without having to worry that we will get it. And just having better understanding of, okay, if somebody has had COVID, are they at risk of getting it again? And I think that data is still not available, or we don't know for sure.
There's pretty good
to know that.
There's pretty good data so far showing that the risk of reinfection, at least right now, is pretty low. They did some simian studies looking at basically infecting them and then trying to reinfect them. We can't do those sort of studies in humans, but from what we know about the virus's mutation pathways as well, the spike proteins are not really mutating. There's some self-correction mechanisms there. So it seems pretty likely that there's going to be no risk of reinfection for the short time scale, but then in the 1 to 3 year time scale, sort of like how you've got the seasonal influenza, every year they have to have a new vaccine. It seems pretty likely that that's going to be the type of model that this lands in.
Yeah, I think it'd be good when there is more data, so healthcare professionals know what to expect. And I really worry about what you mentioned about the spread through GI, because if you look at underdeveloped countries, developing countries that don't have good sanitation system, that puts such a huge risk on countries.
In Hong Kong, during the original SARS epidemic, there was one case where a single person vomited in a toilet. And then that went, he had diarrhea, and it went through the sewage system and ended up getting aerosolized and infected 300 people in his building. That's something that's less common here, but it has a similar progression through the GI tract. And even the flushing of a toilet can launch some of those particles into the air.
Yeah, I wanted to add something because I'm also on frontline as an ID doctor as well as seeing a lot of COVID patients. I do see, in fact, I've been noticing some patients with a lot of diarrhea and vomiting now as they go through the illness, or some people just present initially with diarrhea or some like nausea and vomiting. So it's there. It's we are noticing it now. It's we know that it's mostly respiratory symptoms or fever or sore throat or even anosmia. It's a new thing that they've noticed is loss of smell or loss of taste of food. That could be some early signs and symptoms, but definitely GI symptoms are there, and I'm noticing them actually on COVID patients. So hopefully there will be more data on it.
Yeah, thank you from the front lines reporting, and I think from behalf of all of us, thank you.
No problem. If there is any question in terms of clinical what's going on, please feel free to ask me. I have 30 patients right now with positive pending tests. There is a lot of difficulty for us who are working actually in a setup in a hospital or in a facility. There is a lot of problems because of Department of Health saying something, like getting tests or not. Can we test this person or not? Then there is, in terms of clinical presentations, there's such difficulty that some patients will immediately collapse. They will just, if they have comorbidities, they have no signs and symptoms, and they just collapse. They just go into respiratory distress. Next thing, they are in a ventilator. So it's very difficult to, it's a very complex disease. It's a very complex disease. It's not a simple disease at all. We're seeing all sorts of presentations from like just mild fever. Some of my patients, even though they have comorbidities, they are actually doing okay. They have symptoms. We started them on some treatments, which is not even fully studied, but we have some data from France or some data from China. But we're trying to work with Department of Health to be enrolled in a study so that we can start them on treatment and hope that these patients will not go into respiratory distress or go into complications. So there is a lot of, I know there's a lot of like med tech part is there, but in terms of actual dealing with patients and dealing with this chaos, there is a lot of problems and a lot of dilemma.
Are you guys using hydroxychloroquine?
Can you drop us your email address? We'd love to follow up with you on a couple of things you mentioned.
Yeah, oh my God, so true. I'm so glad you shared about that. I'm a nurse, and we are seeing a lot of patients here, and I lead innovation for oncology nurses. So been getting reports from my colleagues from all over the country. It's just so difficult right now because even hospitals don't know what policies to implement. So the policies are changing every week. Earlier, if someone you took care of was diagnosed with COVID, you were informed. Now you're not even getting informed about it. We have some departments which are getting masks, but they have to reuse the same mask all day. And then there are other departments where they are told that they're not supposed to use the mask at all because it looks weird. But we don't know who has COVID because we are not able to test everyone. The symptoms are confusing. We don't know all the typical symptoms. Now we are finding out about GI symptoms, about other mild symptoms. So there is a lot more infection than what's possible. And then in the case of cancer patients and these complex patients, what we are seeing, the conversations that we are having to have internally that doctors and nurses and clinical staff are having to have is who is going to get the ventilator, because facilities are running out of ventilators and they have to make a decision about, do I give the ventilator to person A or person B, or take ventilator away from person A to give it to person B because they have higher risk or higher chances of survival. So I mean, the situation is really dire right now. There is a lot of need for more data, more support, and understanding what is going on with people and giving them more support at home, in the short term. And in the long term, we don't know what we have to see what the long-term symptoms are. We are seeing, this fibrosis in the lungs and damage to the lungs. So those need to be monitored in the long term because they will have other issues.
So question, and appreciate again the kind of the front lines, and these are not easy decisions for anyone, right? And I'm just curious on the discharges of the patients that are now, a certain percentage of them is being sent home that have tested positive but recovered. And maybe a question for you too, Sunita, and what are the kind of testing that's being done for, if anything, around the antibodies? Because obviously it's important to capture that for this diagnostic to be deployed further. So, if any.
Yeah, unfortunately, I will say to you this, that unfortunately at this time, the people who are in healthcare system are so immersed or engrossed in the chaos, or just to basically manage the disaster. Basically, we're dealing with a disaster. So our plan, or right now what we're trying to do, is prioritize what is the best thing to do in terms of talking to we have to follow. We also have to follow guidelines, and we also have to follow what our top levels and governments say. And at the same time, we also have to deal with the chaos. So basically, right now we are at war in terms of antibodies. We are definitely not doing that. That's not available to us. Actually, in terms of testing, that's where our problem is that Department of Health, or anyone right now, they say to limit testing, use it only for people who need it, people who are sick. But there is a very fine line for that, because patients have such a variable symptoms. Some people can go and become sick very fast, and we can't tell, this patient just has fevers or sore throat, and we don't want to test this patient right now. Ideally, US should have been a model like South Korea, where we would test all people. We would know, okay, this patient has COVID and is feeling like this right now. If they are short of breath, they need to go to ER. Ideally, we should have drive-through testing everywhere, so that people, if they have some symptoms, they go to the ER. They go to these drive-through places, minimize exposure to others. They get tested, they get results fast. Then they don't contact with other people. And then if they develop, more, they become sick, then they go to the hospitals. This would be great. But right now, I think US did not expect this surge of, not just US, first is New York City right now, right? New York City did not, we all saw this coming, but there was nothing we could do, because we didn't even have test kits until we are fighting with Department of Health. We are fighting with, we are collaborating with BioReference to we beg for testing kits to even highly suspicious patients who have comorbidities. So we're in a very different battle right now. It's a war situation. So I suggest that people who are outside, in technology, who are in, who can brainstorm like this and think and great, antibodies would be a great pathway, like someone earlier mentioned. I wish I tested and knew that I had antibodies already, and I would feel comfortable to go to work every day.
Couple of things, Sunita. I'll just interrupt real quick, and maybe I'll just read through a couple of things in the chat. And indeed, so one, I guess a little bit on the positive side, Dr. Jack Crandler posted this on Twitter, that there are rapid IgG antibody tests being developed. Granted, it's not a complete substitute, and still needs to go obviously through a lot of validation, but I just wanted to point that out. And then companies like Kinsa Health, WeThinks has a thermometer. They're able to sort of track onset of at least high temperature, around it. So I think, obviously to your points, some of the technologies and entrepreneurs. And with that, I'll probably just end this and pass it over to Patrick and Alex to, let's see who actually won. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, everybody. I have to drop off in a minute. This is really great. Thanks, Alex.
Oh, thanks to Pat Hurd, doing a fantastic job.
Hope it went
Great
smoothly
job. This is
enough.
the virtual pat on the back. and a virtual toast of our beverages. So hopefully everybody has grabbed a frosty one or what have you, and is going to enjoy a great evening. There is actually a hackathon in New Orleans going on right now. We'll share that information in the chat. I just have a question though. I mean, I wanted to say, okay, what's going to come out of this? And I'm hearing, oh, everybody should be tested. And I completely agree. More data means more knowledge or whatever. So, and as noted previously, we've got testing kits. I have access to millions of them. So IgG, IgM, PCR is going to be a little more difficult, although I could, get out the lab gloves again. I guess the question is, why don't we just take COVID-19 immune, Avi,
Yeah.
and just sell kits through that and just be fucking done with it? I mean, why can't consumers, and the cost for them is anywhere from $14 to $24,
Yeah, Alex, there's this a pretty major supply issue in public health policy that you're gonna have to keep in mind. You can't make this direct to consumer. Makes sense in the short term. There is not enough supply for 330 million people. And it's not the same prioritization, but you can't just go based on whoever has heard about it. You really need to, this is like, think of this as war. You don't want everybody to have equal weapons everywhere based on who they know and when and how. It's
right.
a strategic thing.
I can, and I can get my own damn data, and I can do an informational test on myself. There's nothing to stop me from getting one of those kits and testing myself.
True, and there are tremendous numbers of people who need them now and don't have them, who are in a much higher priority and risk situation than you are, including healthcare providers. And by the way, they need to be tested regularly, like every week or so.
Yeah, but any municipality who wants to order them, we can send them to them. Not we, but the 7 providers.
I'm not speaking truth. I'm just sharing my truth and just my opinion. It's not worth anything. It's just
are available.
Alex, can I suggest something? I think you're gonna do this weekly, right? And I'm happy to also join weekly. I think it is a good topic on kind of what does that deployment look like, direct to consumer or not. My biggest suggestion right now is, why don't you announce the winner?
Come on, let me go already.
There's a New Orleans hackathon. There's businesses to run. There's front lines to.
You don't want to spend 4 hours on my phone all day. Okay.
Hey, Alex, if you got the winner, announce it now. I got to hop.
Okay, so drum roll, please. Excellent. I didn't know we actually have drums. Okay. So the crowd favorite, also known as third place, is a team that really should have been in the contest, but I think may turn into a commercial entity. And so that goes to Avi Shah, Nesavir, and COVID-19 Immune. I think we're all very excited about just what you're doing and how helpful it is. So it's appropriate that it's the crowd choice. So great job, Avi. Second prize goes to the 6th team, which was Riverside Biosciences. So great job, guys. Very exciting to see what you guys are doing.
He's not even here anymore.
He's not even here anymore. Okay, so much for the look at Sangeeta. Do you actually know? Look at that big smile. So okay, first place goes to Help Seek, and it's
Oh my God.
you see you win one of our contests.
Yay.
So we're going to probably have at least 4 heats and then a winner of the winners in about a month or so. So great job, Sangeeta. Congratulations. We're very proud and happy to see one of our.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is so wonderful. I'm so excited. we won, and I hope it gets the word out to people so we can help a lot of people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll do some sort of announcement about this. We'll put it up on Twitter and whatever. So I thank everybody for coming. Thanks everybody for participating and being part of this. There's no Medstartr without a crowd. There's no Health 2.0 New York without a crowd. There's no venture fund without the investors. Thank you for coming, George.
Also, we're doing the showcase for companies.
Oh yeah, and we're also going to be posting all the companies on medstartr.com. Probably sometime next week. So if you have a project or an idea, please feel free to go to medstartr.com and click on the start button and put your project up there. Make sure you select the COVID-19 category so it gets into the showcase. Thanks everybody for coming. You don't have to go home, but we're going to be closing this down pretty soon. We're going to make the recordings available